Oh, my back is killing me. Put this a little bit forward. Nope, don't do that.
All right, and it's not showing there. Let me make sure this is showing up. All right, cool. Yeah, I think we are good. So I think we are live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another live show here
Oh, my back is...
today. Whoops, got that double audio over. Sorry. Today I have the struggling linguist on, which I'm excited to chat with. Somebody just seeing on Instagram, following on Instagram, and time to time, and finally, kind of you put a face with the person because you see them on Instagram, but you know what I mean, that live interaction and stuff. So, do you want
Bonjour,
to
tout le monde.
do any kind of introduction or anything? Just a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there. You don't have to, but if you want to, you're more than welcome.
Well, I'm Sonora. I call myself the struggling linguist because, well, life is a struggle and learning language is a struggle and all that good stuff. So that's where we go. For myself, I've been learning languages like seriously since like 2014,
Okay.
2014 when I discovered Duolingo, and it just kind of grew from there. And I just really enjoy being able to actually speak to different people right now
Yeah.
and talk about different things. So yeah, I just like to be able to communicate with different people
Yeah.
and make my life easier.
Is that what got you into? Like you said, you just kind of discovered Duolingo in 2014. Was the idea of why you got into languages specifically just for that? Like there wasn't maybe a cultural thing. Like I want to watch these TV shows. It was just for communication.
Well, growing up, I grew up in Quebec, in Canada,
Mm.
and I went to French school all my life since kindergarten. I've not had any mother tongue English proper schooling. So as far as that goes, I've always been interested in languages and different cultures because in school I'd speak French, but out of school at home, and I guess like 80% of the time out of school, it's around English people.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of had like two groups of friends at all times, and very few of them ever came together. So I always felt a part of two worlds, but I always loved languages, especially Russian. I always thought it sounded totally badass.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
And
Russian too.
it's yeah, but for me, I couldn't afford that. My mother could not afford classes and all that.
Hmm.
Really expensive, and that was really the only option you had back in the day.
Mm.
Unless you went to the library, picked up a book, and tried, which I did with Spanish. Remember back in the day when they had the cassettes and all that
Oh yeah.
stuff? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I had no clue how to do it or any kind of motivation like we have today that we're lucky to have.
Hmm.
So when I discovered Duolingo, I was like, "Oh shoot, free stuff at my fingertips. All I
Yeah.
have to do is like put in the work, and bam." So there we
And
are.
it's there. Yeah. That's cool that it was kind of like an always like you were just interested too. Do you think that part of that is just because you grew up in an area where two languages were spoken in terms of French and English? Do you think that that maybe influenced that a little bit?
Um, n- yes and no, because we have two languages officially.
Mm.
English and French are officially two languages, but I grew up in a very multicultural place. So I was always surrounded with different people from
Oh,
different backgrounds, and pretty much everyone spoke some other language, an English or some other language and French. There are
oh,
not many unilingual people that I know,
yeah,
or even the English people, they still speak a certain amount of French if they live in Quebec,
right,
because you can't really help it,
yeah,
right? I don't think they would consider themselves fluent or anything, but they can still get by to a certain degree and understand. But I've always been surrounded with culture, different
gotcha,
people.
yeah.
So,
That's super cool. Like I'm always like envious of people like that. I mean, like in the area that I live in, there's Spanish,
sorry.
but in in the United States, like you would be hard pressed to walk out of your door and not find someone within 5 minutes that spoke Spanish. So but in terms of like cultures outside of that, like I'm in a pretty small area. There are some like a little bit down the road. There's a couple of people that speak Greek. There's a Korean restaurant ran by people from Korea. There's like a very tiny bit, but like not anything like like I'm not gonna walk outside and hear like Zulu or like you know what I mean, like or
Yeah.
like probably I mean anything, even Russian or something like that, like so I've always thought that that was like that would be such a cool feel, but especially with the idea of dabbling Like I feel like I would never get anything done because I would just like I would know like 10 sentences in each languages and just want to use those.
No, I feel that way. I feel that way also. Especially now because it's so accessible to be able to just even
Mm,
learn 10 sentences or whatever.
yeah,
I meet somebody who speaks a language that I haven't looked into or whatnot. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm like a cat. I get distracted now.
yeah,
I have to, I got to go after that. And I start to learn the most random things. But the bigger the city you're in, I think, in my opinion, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, these are places you can't go very far without hearing something different. Bus
yeah.
stop, metro station, work, rest, doesn't matter where you are, you'd be very hard pressed at some point not to hear something that's not English or French,
Right.
right? And you can hear a variety of these just walking down one street.
Yeah.
So
Man,
it's
that'd be so crazy.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I grew up with culture all around for the most part. Like in school, since I went to French school, like when I was young, we were like one immigrant per class, if so much. By the end of high school, it's like half the class was from somewhere else
Yeah.
or something else, and everybody spoke their language.
Wow.
And I'd find it very frustrating when I went to a friend's house or something and I couldn't really understand any, well, I couldn't understand anything. And but that's how my Spanish really came about. One of my best friends back in the day,
Hmm.
she was Spanish, and so her mom would always talk to us in Spanish or whatever, and she'd yell certain things that I'm really good at, like "Patricia, ven aquí," like "Patricia, come here." She'd yell that all the time. So like that was one of the first things
That you just picked up.
I just picked up, right, without learning it per se, because I just heard it forever.
Yeah.
And like we're oh then it was like niñas ven aquí, that was all of us, right? We're like, oh shit, and we thought
Right.
so and then like we had this African friend too, and they spoke like seven odd different languages, and
Right.
that was super confusing. But again, it's when you have a bunch of different people around, it's that's what happens,
Yeah.
right? When you mix and mingle and stuff, that's just what happens. Yeah, so I love it. I wouldn't change that for anything.
Do you think that having do you think that having like a friend, like for example, you talk about Spanish, do you, because I know just following your Instagram and stuff, and I think you had even posted some videos on YouTube, or not, I know you posted some videos on YouTube where you went to Mexico, um, and speaking Spanish. Do you think that you would have stayed the course in terms of learning Spanish if like that person wasn't like in your life? Like, do you think you would have had the do you think that influenced you to continue on to be good in Spanish, like having that connection with somebody?
I It actually, well, because between the time of apps being available and all that, and after high school, people move away. Everybody has kids. It's been a long
Right.
time. We didn't live in the same city forever, but I just wanted to be able to, next time I see her or whatever, be like, oh my God, I finally speak it now. I
Right.
remember when her grandmother would come every year and they make this dish called charquican, and I'd always go over and I try my best with what little I knew, because I did try to learn it on my own via books. But obviously, I know now I really sucked. I completely
It,
sucked. But now it's different. Like when I go and if I happen to run into her, see her, or whatever, I can actually speak to her in
speak.
Spanish properly. And the
Right.
first time she was like, what the hell just happened? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, this is actually coming out great and stuff. So, no. But like traveling, that was amazing being able to speak the language and travel for sure.
Yeah. I know that you said. Pretty sure you said this. Maybe I'm making it up in my head, but I'm pretty sure you said when you got there, they were trying to speak to you in English, and you pretty much had to make them speak in Spanish.
Well, to be fair, I had it in my mind that the whole time I was in Mexico, I'm only communicating in English if I absolutely have to.
Hmm.
So in my mind, I was like, okay, off the plane, first person I talked to, which is customs, I'm speaking to you in Spanish. But that's to be expected that they would speak to you in English, because 95% of the plane that's going to get off,
Is
that's not Latino looking, they're going to speak to you in English automatically.
right.
Because sadly, most people speak nothing.
Right.
So it
Oh
was like
yeah.
three or four. Yeah, so you're right. It was like three or four questions in. She'd speak to me in English, but I'd reply everything in Spanish. And then she just kind of got that, oh, I wanted to speak Spanish or whatnot. And we
Yeah.
had a little conversation. And everybody thereafter, as much as like I just speak in Spanish all the time.
Yeah.
And then there'd be these weird moments where people will just like, because have you ever been to Mexico?
No, I've never been. I've been like almost to Mexico. I've been like I've been like deep Texas, but I've never been to Mexico.
Well, you have food everywhere. There's street vendors for food everywhere. Even the restaurants, what happens is like they're all like lined outside generally by the doors, and they, always
Right.
try to grab you to come in and stuff like that. And some of them will just start running off the menu like in clear Spanish to you. And I'm looking around. I'm just like, do I look like I speak Spanish? But like I still respond to my donut, and they just keep going as nothing was. And they're like, "Oh, you actually speak Spanish!" Oh, and they're so happy. And then we just go on with our conversation. But that definitely helped, and it was a blast. It was an
Yeah.
absolute blast. Don't think I would have fared so well without it.
Yeah. Well, like that's always my thing. I mean, I feel like English native English speakers or people who are at least an insanely high level of English. Like I feel like there's like well, I feel like there's two sides of the coin. I feel like you're very benefit like I feel like you're very benefited, privileged, whatever word you want to use, because most places that you go, you can find somebody who speaks English, or at least try
Yes,
to.
you definitely will. You
Yeah,
definitely will find people who speak English. That's for sure.
but like you said, when you got off the plane from where you do speak English, those people, that might be the only opportunity they get to practice their English. So they're going to try to force you. Like, I feel like everybody's going to want to use, like, practice with you. So I feel like there's, like, it's very beneficial, but it also sucks at the same time because you speak what everybody wants to speak.
That yes, that is true, and I did encounter that problem. And a lot of the times I tried to, because it wasn't like we really had a long period of time to sit down and blah blah blah. So it was like bus drivers and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh, I want to practice my English and blah blah," and I'm just like, "Yeah, I get that," but so I'd speak to them in Spanish and let them answer me in English. So if
Yeah.
they said something like I really did not understand or wasn't clear, well, then I'd reply to them in English. Or if they ask something specific, like a pronunciation or what, that I do that. But as a native English speaker, especially, yes, you will constantly run into that problem where if you do speak Spanish, they still want to speak to you
So,
in English because they want to practice that.
yeah, that's one thing that I've always thought. Like, and I mention this on here all the time, but like, I remember Shannon Kennedy, the girl that runs the oh my god, I forgot what the name of the Add One challenge or whatever it is that they do. She was learning, I think it was Hungarian, and when she went to, yeah, I think it was Hungarian, and when she went there, the cab driver just would like it, she kept trying to answer in Hungarian, but he wanted that English practice time, and she kept answering, but he just like kept beating her down, like, no, we're speaking English, like I've got to practice, like.
Yeah, yeah. That will happen, but I think it depends on how you handle it too. Like when I got to Mexico City, the cab driver ended up getting, oh my God, bless his heart, Alejandro, the sweetest man in all of Mexico that I met. And no, he just like was telling me all sorts of tips, and he showed me stuff. He was just telling me everything, but he spoke to me in Spanish, and he said, okay, listen, 5 minutes, you speak to me in English. The rest of the ride, we speak in Spanish. It was like a half an hour ride or something
Yeah.
to where I had to go, and that's pretty much what we did, right? And it was really really nice. And the whole time I'm there, and I see people, they're like, "Oh, we don't speak Spanish. We don't speak Spanish." And I'm like, "How long have you been here?" "Oh, like 6 months." "And you can't even order a taco on your own?" I'm just like,
Right.
"Are you kidding me? Like, what is wrong with
Yeah.
you?" But I don't
That's
understand how people get by like that.
Yeah, I don't either, like a pretty big cornerstone of this podcast is always talking about my friend Evan, who he taught English in Korea for 2 years, and then he's been in Japan for 4 years teaching English there. And before he got on the plane to Korea, he was like, I'm learning Korean. Like, I'm not gonna go there and not learn how to speak to them in their language. And then he did the same thing for Japan when he went to Japan.
To me, it only makes sense. I'm not saying if you're going for a 2 week vacation, start boggling down. Okay, whatever. But if you know you're going for an extended period for like work, for example,
Mm,
6 months, a year, I'm sorry, not sorry, but it's worth looking into more than just counting to 10 and good morning, good night, thank you,
yeah.
right? You need to invest a little bit more than that. Um, yeah, I don't understand those behaviors. I'm still trying to cope with it. But for me, I was in Mexico and I'm just like, I can't imagine how I would feel right now if I couldn't speak the language. I was looking for an EpiPen, for example. I forgot before I left, I have an egg allergy. And before I left, I forgot to pick up my EpiPen.
Oh no.
So I'm like, oh, it's Mexico. It's going to be cheaper. Dear God, nobody knows what an EpiPen is.
Really?
I swear to you, I went to like every single pharmacy on a main strip, like in Tulum, every single one. Nobody seemed to know what an EpiPen is,
Whoa, that's
right?
pretty wild.
So I'm
Like,
like, right? And I'm explaining in Spanish, para inyección, tengo una alergia al huevo, ¿sabes? And like, and they still didn't know what it was. We Google and they're like, no, 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 I don't think we have this. And they're like, oh, maybe next door. And like, everywhere I went to Playa del Carmen, Merida, nobody seemed to know what an EpiPen was.
EpiPen was.
So I'm imagining, I'm like, God forbid I should eat some eggs right now or something,
Yeah.
and I can explain anything to people, or just even being able to try to explain to people, hey, I need a certain medication in case I get sick,
Right.
right? And the people I was with, nobody spoke Spanish at the time that I was doing it. Nobody spoke Spanish. And so I was like really by myself just trying to do this. And I couldn't imagine. I'm like, what would I do right now if I didn't speak a word? I'd be there with Google in every store holding up lines. And
Right. Yeah.
so I'm just like, no, things like that are super important to know. And even
Yeah.
though by no means is my Spanish perfect, no one stood there and criticized me about it or whatnot. It was just quick information. They got what I was saying,
Yeah.
even though they didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
Right. You get your point across.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
like when I tried to look for a Western Union, which is a whole thing that nobody tells you about. But even that, it was near hell to find a proper Western Union.
That's like I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe there's just some things that we I don't want to say take for granted, but like are just so normal to us, but not. I don't know. Is that like it's just weird? Like maybe that is.
It's because they have a system. But like for the 4 months or so that I've been watching a whole bunch of different YouTube videos and stuff about Mexico and do's and don'ts and etc., I noticed after I lost my wallet, this is one thing I did not come across. So they have Western Union. It's not a weird thing. They have two types of Western Unions.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that you'll find in this like supermarket place called Anki or Aki, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's in country only. Took us 45 minutes to figure that out because the lady hadn't couldn't figure out everything. About
Right.
45 minutes it took her to figure that out. Okay, okay, cool. So then I know you can go to Oxxo. So I go to Oxxo, which is like the 7-Eleven of Mexico,
Okay.
which has Western Union, but you can only receive up to $2,000. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? They're like, oh, there's Western Union and Aztec in Merida where you're going. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get there finally. I'm excited. I'm going to get some money. They don't accept my passport. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So they take all the money, but not my passport. So I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? They're like, oh, you have to go to Coppel. I'm like, that's a shoe store because I had just passed it. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but upstairs. So basically, if you want a proper Western Union with no restrictions to how much you can send, receive, where it can go, they have stores called Coppel, which is a Canadian company, and it's a shoe store. When you look at it's a shoe store, but if you go upstairs, they all have Western Unions in there,
Whoa.
and they take it very
That's
seriously. You can't take out your phone at any point. You can't use your phone for anything. You
oh
have to make sure everything's written down. They will send you back if you take out your phone. It happened.
wow.
But I had to go through all of that by myself with nobody. So if I didn't speak the language, that would have been hell.
Yeah,
I
you
was
would have had
already
to.
freaking out because I'm like, I didn't have a wallet. Oh no, this was before I lost my wallet. This is when the cops accosted us. But anyway,
Wow. Yes, you would have been there with like a dictionary trying to pull up word by word, like try to figure it
exactly.
out.
I'm trying to understand, not just trying to figure out what to say, but also trying to figure out what they're telling me,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because although many speak English, a lot it's really broken, and sometimes you're like, wait, what? Especially with the accents.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're like, wait, what? Right? So,
That's yeah. I've somebody in the comments here said that your accent is good, and your Spanish accent is good.
muchas gracias.
And then let's see. Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, I
blah.
can't see it.
does this? Why did I not? Oh, I sent you the link for the chat, which was needed. I can. Do you want me to? Do you want me to send you the link on like Instagram real quick so you can see the chat?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Um, bump. Let me see. Oh, actually, it'll be easier. I'll just do it on my phone while I'm doing this. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I didn't do that. And then somebody said I need a tutor. Do you tutor Spanish?
I've thought about it, and I'm absolutely willing to help people out in any way that I can. However, um, it's basics, like starting the basics. Pretty much how I learned it
Hmm.
is what I'd be helping you. Which again, like I keep telling people, my major thing was starting to learn to conjugate verbs
Right.
and and just making sentences. That's really what I did. But in my defense or disclaimer, I speak French. Je
Yeah.
parle français parfaitement, donc it wasn't that much of a reach for me. But that's basically what I did. But anybody who's willing to learn from somebody who learned it from scratch themselves, hey, I'm not going to tell you no,
Yeah.
for sure.
Do you think that
Conjugate verbs.
right?
So let me just
Oh,
mute this.
oh no,
Just
you're good.
making sentences. So let me just mute it. That's really what I did. But in my defense, I can't mute or it. Okay. Disclaimer. Yeah, go ahead.
You can see how long the lag is there too. Like it's like a 20-second lag. But like do you think in terms of like verb conjugation, especially knowing English and French, right? So because like the problem, like I know the thing with Spanish verb conjugations is like, well, English conjugates it too, right? Well, yeah, it does, but like that being the only thing that you know, it makes it a little hard. Do you think that knowing English and French, from where both of them conjugate verbs, and especially because I know French does it more so, like English does it, but it's like kind of does it. Do you think that that helped you in terms of grasping the conjugations a little better?
English had zero to do with it. Absolutely nothing. I took everything from French.
French.
And again, a major reason for that is that I've never been educated in English. Um, my English education, as far as that goes, was in school from fourth grade. You know, we had English class, but it was like basic stuff. We learned
Mm-hmm.
the same 60 verbs from fourth grade through the 12th grade.
Right.
So it was pretty much repetitive stuff. So it wasn't like I was really educated or anything any more than anybody else around where I live. So English had literally zero to do with it. I just using Duolingo, I was noticing I'm like, hey, this is kind of like French where the endings are different and blah blah blah. And so I made myself a little board um, for conjugation. Just looked up how to conjugate verbs,
Yeah.
wrote that down, blah blah blah, and started to apply it.
And you're
Just
good.
going off the rules. I just use the rules and I pick a random verb and I'd apply it and practice that way as best as I can.
Yeah.
You
I,
know, the ones you need to learn by heart, they're still a bitch. Excuse my French.
no, you're good. I don't be yourself. I don't.
Trucker here. No, of course, the ones there's some things you just have to learn by heart, just like in English. But the problem with English verbs is the opposite of everybody else, where you have a long list of regular verbs. In English, you have a really short list of regular verbs. They're
Right.
mostly irregular.
Right.
So English becomes something you kind of just have to learn by heart, mostly, right? Like
Yeah.
spelling. English, you kind of just have to know how to
Know it.
spell shit.
No, for sure, because it's the spelling is. Well, the other day I was trying to say something about watching the finale of a TV show, and I went back and forth for like 10 minutes on if it was Finally, which and then I was like, wait, that's finally, and then I finally realized that it's finale, like it's actually I guess I guess it's like a French word in general that we've just taken from them, like it's, and then I
Yeah, the finale.
finally realized I was like, okay, that there it is. So it was a big struggle.
That is awesome.
So let's see. Alex Trotman. What are her rates for tutoring? I'm not sure. I don't. I mean, she said that she was not opposed to helping people. I'm sure if you shot her a message, or I don't know. I'm sure right on the spot you're not going to be like in this amount of money, but like,
No, it's anywhere between 10 and 14. I try to be fair, but I also have bills to pay, y'all.
yeah,
Just saying.
yeah.
Um,
Exposure doesn't pay the bills. Exposure and items for your portfolio. That's what I always get. Like, because I shot video, like I shoot video from time to time, and like I edit, and I would have people be like, "Will you edit this for me?" And I'm like, it's not that I don't want to say no. And they're like, it'll be something that you can use for your portfolio. And I'm like, if I show that to the car
If you want to
dealer,
be an editor.
yeah, like if I show that to the car dealer, they're not going to be like, oh, portfolio, we're going to take this month bill off.
Exactly, exactly. No, but for online, it's not. Online, I don't go over 14. I have a few students to do English with mostly, but I don't go over 14.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Um,
And
yeah,
what?
I don't think it should be something that's super expensive because I have more of a guiding approach. Like
Mm,
I'm not here to spoon feed you anything, so don't
yeah,
expect that, right? A teacher's really a guide and a support, and
right,
I'm not something for you to lean on, and I'm not somebody to spoon feed you. At least not me. At
right,
least not me. So the more you help yourself, the more you're actually going to get out of it,
right.
right? So, but I just try to have fun with it. And
Yeah,
again, if you want to give it a try, a first lesson would always be free. Got to see how you
see
like
how
it,
it
enjoy
works.
it, whatnot,
Yeah.
see how it works, and then we go from there.
Yeah, so I keep looking over at the chat because there's people still arguing over EpiPens, and it's like the most entertaining my chat's been
Oh,
ever.
let's see.
So,
What are they saying? Oh, let me see here.
just going back and forth about EpiPens and whether or not it exists in other countries, it's like a whole big thing.
I'm not saying it
So,
doesn't exist. I'm just saying I could not find any in
yeah,
Mexico.
yeah,
I
it's
couldn't find in Tulum, in Merida, in Cancun, Mexico City, and certainly not Puebla.
yeah. Oh, so here, actually, now that you say that, I will get back to. I
Oh,
do have a question in terms of. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
and I was just gonna say, actually, I don't think I checked in Puebla, but yeah, but generally speaking, I couldn't find any
Gotcha.
or
That
anybody who knew what the hell I was talking about.
and you talking about going to these multiple different places reminded me when you went to these different areas, right? Because the thing that people seem to kind of go back and forth with on in languages is did you struggle with the different dialects? Like, did you
I
find that?
didn't. I didn't notice.
Okay,
I'm not very. I don't think I'm very good at. Oh, excuse my French. I don't.
like,
That was rude. Ah, French people don't get mad at me. Um, I didn't personally notice a difference. I'm sure there was, but my ear is not sensitive enough to
to
really have picked up. I noticed it within the different people I met
gotcha. Different
because there
patterns of
were
speech and stuff.
exactly as I stayed in hostels,
Hmm.
so constantly surrounded by a bunch of different people. So you had a lot of Argentinians. A lot of Argentinians work in hostels. A lot.
They have that heavy R roll too, the heavy
And
trill
the
R.
sh to the words. So like there, I'd start noticing like when I notice right away when I'm not talking to a Mexican.
Hmm.
That I would notice.
Yeah,
But amongst themselves, I couldn't really tell you.
gotcha.
I personally couldn't. It's not. I'm not there yet. I need to spend a lot more time.
Argentinians are the reason because like when I was which I'm not good in Spanish by any means. Like I'm by certificate a B1 speaker, but that basically means I learned how to take a test and I did. I definitely don't think I could speak to that level, but when I was learning, I spoke to a lot of Argentinians, and I still to this day say "yo" instead of "yo," like because they hard pronounce that "y," like for "yo," it's
Mhm.
"jo," and I still do that because of how like forceful they are. Which you don't say "yo" a lot, but you know what I mean. Like I'll still be like "jo," "jo," or like it's not a full "j," but it's that like right in the
Yeah,
middle because they
I noticed that when like I watch TV a lot, and I'm like, oh, I don't say Joe. I say more it's yo.
yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Let's see. Ada, I think that's how you pronounce the name. Says, have you? This is. I mean, it's a good. It's a good question. I think. Have you ever had to learn a language that you didn't like but needed for a job or something like that?
Wait, I'm sorry. Go ahead, say that again.
No, you're good. Have you ever had to learn a language that you didn't like but you needed for a job or something? I personally have not, but
Myself?
yeah,
No,
yeah, I haven't. I think that would
no.
be hard. Like I tried learning Spanish. Like I tried to really push through Spanish for my job, but I just couldn't do. Which again, my kind of my mentality on languages has changed a lot since then. I really wish I would have because I love Spanish now, but um, I think like even if it's for a job, man, I think if you don't have an underlying issue, like it's gonna be an absolute hassle to learn because you don't care.
Yeah, I think you definitely had to care, but for the job market, I haven't had to do anything, although I have a love-hate relationship with French.
Mm-hmm.
So, bien sûr, je peux parler français, je le parle parfaitement, je le parle couramment, mais in here in Quebec, English people and French people have a very clashy relationship. Quebecers tend to think everything should be in French and French, 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 French all the
Mm-hmm.
time. We have our French laws and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And outside of Quebec, they still think they rule the nest. And so now that I live in Ottawa, the capital city, so they use both official languages.
Mm-hmm.
But as a native English speaker growing up in Quebec, you'd hear a lot of "On est au Québec ici, on parle français" and nonsense like that. Like, hey, we're in Quebec here, we speak French. And
Right.
one summer for Saint Jean, there was this guy who was Saint Jean is like one of the biggest Quebec holidays out here, June 24th. And he was driving his car with the Quebec flag waving while the Canadian flag was literally dragging behind his car.
Ooh.
And I was like, are you kidding me? So there's always been this language debate and thingy. And for the most part, I was like, whatever. But now as an adult, I move away from Quebec for certain reasons to get away from a lot of things as a native English speaker.
Mm.
I feel like my language is constantly being insulted, yet they want to use it for everything.
Right.
Um, so I'm very picky about when I speak French now.
Gotcha.
Like if
Okay.
I go like if I go into a store and they start speaking to me in French and I'm not in Quebec, I'll speak to them in English, even in Quebec, just because I can and I know they're most of the time
Man.
they do. I know most of the time they do speak English. They just don't want to, right? But they
Yeah.
can't refuse to serve me because I'm not speaking French, and I'm not stopping you from speaking French. I just don't want to speak it
Yeah.
on on a weird kind of principle that I have. But to
That's a,
really understand that, you have to be a Quebecer. You have to be lived in Quebec at some period of time
right.
as a native English speaker and dealt with the French to understand what I'm saying.
Right.
It's not a universal thing you can just be like, oh, yeah, I get that. Unless you live in a certain part of the world where, that probably happens within um, two countries being within one. Actually, no, because we fight with it within the same country,
Right. That makes. I
right?
mean,
Quebec is not a separate country, so it's really weird.
right. No, I get that for sure. Um, I mean, it makes sense. Alex Trotman, she is on Insta. The links to her stuff is on in the description. If you want to contact her, it's her Instagram and Twitter. I believe both of them are Lang Struggles.
Lang struggles, yes.
Langstruggles.
Oh, wait, hold on. Just seeing a note here from Emmanuel Macron. You're saying they need to know in order to graduate. Oh, graduate as a pharmacist, and that's not
Oh
true.
yeah, that's
Wait,
that's
what?
that's where they were going back and forth on those EpiPens. Like that was like a whole like
Yeah, okay, because I'm just like I'm so confused. I'm like
yeah no
I
no
went to pharmacy school, and I'm just like I'm pretty sure you need to know what an EpiPen
yeah
is.
no they were going
But
they were going back and forth on those EpiPens. That was like the highlight of like the first 20 minutes. Just like, EpiPens, man.
but hey, this is Mexico, so I don't know, man. I don't know. When I was like, hey, you could just get Keterol over the counter, seriously? It's like, shoot, I could use some of that right now.
Yeah. You're Spanish, so in terms of your learning, right? I know that you were talking about Duolingo and stuff. When you were starting out, you used Duolingo. What else did you use for Spanish? Was it Duolingo and a couple of other things, or did you watch native uh, content, or like what was your process and like that?
Um, I have a very somewhat unique story about that, but long story short, it was literally only Duolingo. I didn't watch a single podcast. Sorry, I didn't listen to a single podcast. I didn't watch a single video. Nothing of the sort. No blogs, nothing.
Whoa.
I just on Duolingo, and I was in South America and I didn't have access to all this stuff. And honestly, it never occurred to me to look up on YouTube how to learn a language. That's not something I would have ever looked up.
Mhm.
Because to me, it just seems, well, pick up a book.
Right, right.
How else do you want to
Like
learn it
read
if you're not going to school?
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think that's a lot of people our age, like our mentality, until we kind of got attuned to it. Because, like, yeah, growing up, YouTube didn't exist and stuff. So if we wanted to look at something, we went to like encyclopedias, or you know what I mean. Like we were always like, let's go to the books. Let's see what I'm missing.
Well, it's the same thing. Books are still there. So I basically just had my phone and I bought a notebook, some pens, and like I was saying before, I went on Google and I said, "Hey, how do I conjugate AR verbs? How to conjugate ER and IR verbs?" And then I looked up a few grammar rules. In my situation, I didn't have internet and electricity 24 hours a day, so
Mm.
I had to screenshot. I screenshot these things
Yeah.
and I'd recopy it in my book. So I'm like rewriting and thinking about it at the same time and stuff like that. And then I'd practice it. So that's literally how I started and pretty much what I still do.
So yeah.
But it was really that simple for me, I
Yeah.
guess. It
So
wasn't
did you just pick up the vocabulary just from repetition? Like, did you add them? Like, I know you said you screenshotted stuff, but did you specifically like go out of your way to study vocabulary, or was it just kind of that constant routine of Duolingo's "the pig ate the wallet, the pig ate the wallet, the pig ate the wallet," like that kind of thing? Because I know, like, I've kind of clowned on that before, but I do think that the point of that is to teach you sentence structure. It's not because
it
you're going to
is.
say that sentence; it's to give you a plug and play atmosphere.
Yes, and that's exactly it. When you're sitting there just trying to come up with random sentences on your own, you can go blank really quickly because you're
Mm-hmm.
just trying to think of random stuff. So one thing I did was just use Duolingo sentences, whatever sentence it was. Like I'd copy it down and I just replace the
The
nouns
words.
or replace the adjectives, right? I'd replace the verbs or write the same sentence at the past tense, present tense,
Yeah.
future tense. That's pretty much what I do. And on the other hand, I just look around me and be like, look for whatever's going on around me or what I can
Yeah.
see in my immediate area, and I'd write that down. And if I don't know the word for it yet, I write it in English. And since all I had was Google, I went in Google Translate and it was, just looked up the vocabulary word
Right.
that way. But I've not done any intensive vocabulary study per se. I really try to make full sentences as I'm doing my verb
Yeah.
as I'm learning my verbs. I make full sentences and I just try to write different words or recycle the words that I seem to be having trouble with.
Gotcha. I think
Um,
I think one good thing about Spanish, and the one positive thing of the verb conjugations is because you write those out, right? This word, for example, comer, or you como, what the whole, comerán, all that stuff. You're gonna hold the whole thing. You're seeing that stem so many times because you're com, and then all right, what's the end? And
exactly.
I think that kind of helps it. I think that kind of helps it stick. What's hold on. All right, this is a good question. What in terms of language families, what do you think? Like, do you have a language group of language? All right, guys, English. Listen, let this be
Attends, attends. On
a
respire, on
let,
respire, on respire.
let this be a
Oh,
good
yes,
example.
yes,
Let's be a great example that even your native language you will absolutely not be able to speak sometimes. So, what do you think is the best sounding language tree? Like, what do you think sounds the prettiest between, like, Slavic Romance languages? Do you have one that kind of catches you a little bit more than others? Sorry about that.
I couldn't put it down to a tree specifically.
Hmm.
I could pick among the tree, but not us, because I don't think everything Slavic sounds good.
Sure.
I don't necessarily think everything romance sounds good,
Hmm. I
right?
get where you're coming from.
But the best sounding language to me, just like that, is Russian. It's just
I,
badass.
I
I just
agree.
feel like everything sounds so badass. It doesn't matter what it. And I thought the more Russian I learned, the less badassery it would have.
Hmm.
No, I still
Still
love it.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
still awesome.
I love the way
Um,
Russian sounds, man. I love it.
the more I hear German being spoken, the more I like it. The
Mm.
more I learn and am able to speak it, the more I really think it sounds hot.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, German actually sounds really good. If you once you get to the feel of it a little bit, I find it
Yeah.
sounds really, really good.
I like the and this is a very weird statement, but I like the guttural sound of it. Like it's a very
That could be it.
just like a I don't know. It's just like this almost it almost has a darkness to it, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like, but it does. It has this very guttural sound, and that's what Russian reminds me of as well. Like it has like kind of it's almost like a dirty language. You know what I like the way it sounds. It's almost kind of like
Yeah,
dirty.
I feel it's awesome.
Yeah, no offense to any German speakers. I'm meaning that in a good way. I mean that it sounds beautiful. That's
Was
what I
magst du
mean.
für ein Monster?
Let me see here. It's definitely. Do you know any
My
good?
Twitch viewers taught me that one.
Uh, yeah. This isn't a question. I can show you the. Somebody asked me about a Japanese dictionary. I use this one right here. I'll show you real quick, and then we'll. I use this dictionary right here. It's a red app, and it literally just says Japanese, so you can go find that. There is a.
Alex Trotman quiere saber si yo hablo español con fluencia. Un poquito.
There we go.
Puedo hablar con bastante fluencia. Fluencia. I think it's fluencia, yeah. Anyway, puedo hablar con bastante fluencia en cosas que yo conozco, pero
There's a.
todavía tiene palabras que no conozco, palabras que mezclo. Así que eso es.
Yeah, I think uh anyway, I'm apparently having some issues tonight. Like my brain is not working. Somebody said they love the sound of Arabic, but a lot of people
Yeah,
hate it. I think Arabic
жал.
sounds amazing. Um,
Меня нравится Arabish? No. I have no idea how to say Arabic in Russian.
oh yeah,
Fluide. I have no
yeah.
idea how to say Arabic in Russian. That's, you know what? That's something I find really tough
Mm,
is learning languages and names of countries in another
another
language. You don't
language.
really realize how tough that is until you do it.
Yeah, well, it caught me off guard when I started learning languages in general, where I realized that every country doesn't call each country the same thing. Like,
Like in Italian, Tedesco.
yeah, like,
I was like, why?
um,
What was Tedesco? How am I supposed to remember that?
and
I
like,
do, but
and we're like, it's Germany, and Spanish is like Alemán, like like, like, but it's like, why? Where Japan? We call it Japan. It's Nihon. Like, where? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure it comes from somewhere, but oh, I know what I was gonna say. Fluencia. That's actually it's a language learning program that Spanish Dict has.
Fluencia?
Fluencia, yeah, it's a program that Spanish Dict does. It's like I think it's like 14 or 15 bucks a month, but it's a pretty cool program. I did like the free trial like years ago, but like it was pretty cool. I like it was. I mean, it was learning by pictures. It was here's a picture and then like native audio talking about it or whatever. But it's a pretty cool program.
As far as my Spanish goes, personally, obviously I still have a lot to learn and acquire.
Yeah,
But I don't study Spanish per se. I don't say I'm learning Spanish. I just feel, especially having spent a 3 week period in a country where the language is spoken,
hmm
I feel like for myself and my goals, I'm happy where I'm at to the level that I've actually studied for. And everything else, most of it can just come through acquisition, spending time with people, having normal conversations,
yeah,
reading books, and I'll get there no issues in for me personally. So yeah, I consider myself I'm done learning
learning.
Spanish.
Yeah, I remember when I took that test for the B1 thing and I passed it, and I was like, I'm no longer gonna say that I'm studying Spanish. I speak Spanish, and boy, did that is not a phrase that aged well at all. Like my Spanish is like the most rusty thing like on the planet, and it's because I don't like what keeps you. This is actually I can segue into this. Like what keeps you motivated when you're learning? Like what prevents you from just like fully jumping on? And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm gonna take a day and just dabble in this just to kind of refresh my brain. Like what
Mhm.
prevents you from being like, I'm gonna dabble in this and then be like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna learn this. Like what keeps you kind of on track with your language learning?
Absolutely nothing. Let's be honest.
Okay, just the
Absolutely.
drive.
Because for me, it really is just about living life, but in another language. I don't really have an interest in like teaching long term as a career path.
Hmm.
I don't have an interest in talking about languages and vocabulary lists and phenoms and dark vowels and light vowels and all. I don't care. Like I
Gotcha.
literally don't.
Yeah.
I just want to talk with people. And I really believe that more people can speak and more people will speak, be able to acquire if more services for that purpose were provided.
Hmm.
Like take yourself, for example, which I think is a perfect example here. So you've studied it for a bit, you take a little test that says, okay, you're at this level, and you were trying to complete that for work. And through probably a lack of opportunities to use it and practice it much, you kind of like lost that interest, even though it was probably, going to give you a higher salary or whatever.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to maintain that motivation,
Right.
really find a reason like, why am I doing this? So, like, yeah, I love the sound of it. I want to travel there and spend some time, but in between, why am I doing
Yeah.
this? So, the business I'm working on is literally about that. I think if people had a physical place in their community that
Hmm.
they can go to on their own schedule whenever they wanted,
Yeah.
and everybody there is there for the purpose of social interactions, to practice, help each other on their path and whatnot. And there would be activities that you can participate in if you want to. And most of it is based around speaking, most like improv type activities that
Hmm.
allow you to speak real, meaningful in real life um, conversations. And
Yep.
I think if a lot of people knew there was somewhere like that right there in their backyard that they can go to when
Yeah.
they get back from their 6 months vacation or whatever, or um, to grab that motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
I
I
think
can
things
agree
would
with
be a
that.
lot better for the language community because when it comes down to it, in my opinion, which is something that I voice a lot,
Hmm.
it probably comes out in a really irritated voice. But my whole thing is we need acquisition opportunities. We need opportunities to acquire
Hmm.
the language, right?
Yeah.
And meetups are great and fantastic and all, but if they really worked for everyone and everything, more people would be fluent. People wouldn't be wondering, oh, where do I go to find partners? You would know because it
Yeah.
would be all the rage, right?
Right. And
And so,
hopefully it'd be better. Like, because that's always my problem with uh, Hello Talk. No one ever answers me ever on there. Like, I'll send
you poor
messages,
thing.
and it's just like, which I know that Hello Talk. I guess I think a lot of those apps have become just like breeding grounds for people trying to hit on people, and like, you know what I mean, like.
Hmm.
And so I get it. Like, I'm not an attractive female or whatever a lot of the dudes on there are looking for. You know what I mean? Like, but like, I just want to talk your language. I don't give a crap about what you're doing over here, man. But like, dude, I never get messages back on there. No one ever answers me. And I even thought like I dabbled in Afrikaans, right? And I was like, cool, like this should be kind of cool because like it's kind of it's not an obscure language, but it's a language that like people who
Yeah.
speak it are very proud of. So I was like, this should be a piece of cake. I should get a speaker instantly, right? And
Yeah.
then no. Like
No
just
go.
nothing at all.
No go. No
There
dice.
there was nothing. They were just like, no, we're not doing that. Um Somebody said
No.
try Tandem. I need to try Tandem. I've heard a lot better about Tandem than Hello Talk. Maybe I will try that soon. But
But to your point on that, whether it's Tandem, Hello Talk, iTalki, whatever it is, unless it's something that you're actually paying people for their time,
yeah,
it comes back to any situation you would have in real life. Not because we both are interested in the subject means we're going to like each other and want to talk to each other,
100%.
right?
Right.
And so what I think that a lot of the problem with apps and stuff is that first of all you have to sit there and you have to go through all of them,
Hmm.
right? And then you got to find somebody who you can
Right.
get along with, and that may not be the first time. And but that's a lot of time spent looking and looking and looking when I can be like, fuck it, let me just go down to the thing. Not only am I going to know in real life, hey, we can get along, blah blah blah, but I can worst case scenario still participate in the activity,
Right.
be it somewhere, have that real life thing without so much trouble,
Yeah.
right? But as great as apps are, it still isolates us.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, well, you can find speaking partners on these apps. Yeah, but I'm still isolated because that means I have to be sitting somewhere like this.
Yeah. When I dabbled in Arabic, there's a store. You know what? I said that there's not a lot here. There's a lot here. All right. So maybe I'm for it to be as small as it is. But there's a store not too far from my house. I was pointing like you guys can see, but like there's a
Right over there, y'all. Right
there's
over
a
there.
there's a store close to my house, and the two guys that run it are Arabic. They are from it's Yemen. They're from Yemen, which Yemenese Arabic is like near impossible to find any resources for. But so I started learning a little bit because again I went in there and like I say that I have issues with speaking, but like I did at one point I did go into stores and I was okay with just even like saying hello, and like I can remember saying hello and they were like, oh, that's really cool, that's not how we say anything, let me teach you, like, so like, but it opened the door for that to happen.
Exactly. Just the one word, you just even just the fact that you say hello or thank you in their language, like it freaks people out all the time.
Yeah.
Like in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. I was in the store not too long ago and they were watching TV that I couldn't see,
Hmm.
but I can hear it's Korean. So when I left, I just said, 감사합니다. I said, and she just looked at me like, oh, you speak Korean? I'm like, no, like, hello, thank you.
Yeah.
The basics. And she's like, oh, very good. And she was so happy. Like the smile on her face was just like priceless.
Yeah.
And that's, people appreciate like just that.
Yeah.
And I
That's
always say to people, I'm sorry to cut you off,
no,
sorry.
no, no. You go ahead.
I always say to people, think of it just yourself as a native English speaker. When you hear somebody else say hello or say whatever, and you know right away that this is not their,
Hmm.
is your first instinct to, oh, let me make fun of this. Let me break this down, every little mistake he says. Let me correct every little thing. No, you're like, hey, I understand what you want. Gotcha.
Yep.
Obviously, it's life. There will be people who are pricks.
Yeah.
They will be a prick
Yep.
because they can. It's their
Right.
right. But generally speaking, we you keep going with the conversation. If there's really something, well, then you'll stop and explain or whatever. But
Yep.
if I'm at the grocery store and I have to serve, I work at the grocery store and my next customer, says something to me and I'm not going to start breaking it down and criticizing and laughing and having a
Right.
whole
Right.
chat about it with my colleagues. And I'm like, it's the same thing in the reverse, people.
Yep.
It literally is the same thing.
Yep.
If
And that,
anything, they're going to be more appreciative.
yeah, and that's I've always thought like if you were in a situation where you can make someone's day. You don't have to learn their language, right? But even if you just before you leave a store, look up how to say goodbye or something like that, thank you, whatever. Like it doesn't mean that you have to have a conversation with them about anything. Just say that. That right there, it's someone who's living so far from home in an environment that they may have immigrated last year and they're trying to make ends meet. You never know. Man, that can just boost so much confidence in people and just make them feel better and make them feel more so at home just because you did that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Hold on. I just saw a message here. Emmanuel Macron was saying, "You think Tinder will work for language learning?" Let me tell you,
I don't.
no.
I don't.
Actually, no, no, no. That's not true. I'm so bored. A month and a half ago, it's probably about a month now. Tinder opened up like this passport thing. Don't judge me, y'all. Don't judge me. I've only been on Tinder for like 6 months or something because my life is just boring. Anyway, um, yeah, so they opened up this section called Passport. So you can literally access people around the world. So I
Oh,
do have a Russian conversation going, two German conversations, and I think one was Greek. I can't remember because I stopped talking to him. But yes, it can
okay.
actually help if you're looking for stuff, if you choose that option. I don't pay for it, so it's probably gone now. So I only have the messages that were that already
That
began.
started.
But if you are looking for love in the outside world, open to a mail ordered bride or groom, nothing against that,
Either way,
or person, mail ordered
person,
person. I
or
don't
person.
judge. Live your best life, girl or
Yeah,
boy or person.
or person.
I should shut up.
No,
But my
man,
point is, you
it
can
still can
find
work.
love in a different language.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I didn't think about it in that regard, but I guess it makes sense. Like, if you,
Alex,
especially,
sorry, Alex Trotman here How many languages does she speak? I'm assuming he means me. And when can we start lessons? I doubt you would have the answer to the second question. But the first question, let's go with six,
6.
to varying degrees, but six. So
6.
anglais, français, chinois, espagnol, italien, russe, allemand. Oh, seven, sorry.
So
Yeah, because I
that's
recently added back Italian because I started it back and I actually had my first real live one-on-one random conversation thing. We did it entirely in Italian. I was like, oh man, I'm not that bad.
nice.
I am not that bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a
So yeah,
confidence booster.
it is. It is. Because I hadn't studied it properly for a while. I just started, and then somebody's like, hey, let's chat. And I was like, okay. And I was scared to death, but hey, it turned out well. I wasn't
Yeah.
too horrible.
I could see that being like that's what I always got nervous when I would go to get tutors because like I don't know, man, it's just that weird like almost you don't know what they expect out of you like and it's so stupid because you're paying that person to help you like what are you afraid of, you know what I mean, like you're I don't know, it's a weird thing, but I always get nervous. Especially like the first time that I'm like, oh god, what are they gonna do, like are they, they're gonna think my level sucks, but like if my level wasn't bad I wouldn't be hiring a tutor, so like it's like a what am I doing?
Yeah, that one was different. Because I'd not actually done it for me. I've done it in the reverse,
Hmm.
as in just chatting with other people in English or in French,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll be doing tomorrow. I have no need for the French, but je vais les aider.
Mm.
And also, I'm trying to get more. This is what my love and hate relationship with French kind of hurts and hinders. I don't know, but because most people that are learning French or learn French, you guys sound like you're from France. Comme vous parlez tous comme ça là, avec un accent comme ça quoi. Ouais, whatever. Mais moi je parle pas comme ça étant du Québec.
Mm-hmm.
J'ai un accent vraiment différent. So I'm trying to like write myself little skits where I play out stuff so that you can like really hear the difference of for those who care to hear the difference in the Quebec French versus international French that everybody else speaks
Right.
because um, people who sound like me, I know exactly who they are. They're really only popular in Quebec for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else sounds like they're from France.
Like Parisian or something like
Avec les Parisiens,
yeah.
c'est trop mignon, c'est très drôle, c'est très drôle. Monsieur Macron, oui, je sais que vous êtes le président de la République française. Et si vous êtes le vrai président, j'apprécierais un emploi. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a job, dude. Looking for a job. I'm not picky.
Do you think paying for a tutor is irrelevant due to the fact we can learn a language for free? I don't, because I think people learn differently, and I think some people need a like I think when you get a tutor can depend on stuff depending on what you're looking for, but I think in terms like some people need structure, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like some people need structure. Like you can get into a language to get lost on what you're doing, and just kind of be like, well, I guess I'm doing this, but why? Like I think a tutor can help people get past certain aspects. I also think that the best, like to me, and you can, especially if you've done tutoring, you can tell me what you think on this. I've always thought that the best use for a tutor, though, is the actual conversation that you can have, like like hearing the language that hearing your target language and trying to respond. Like I've always thought that's the best use of a tutor, because you can get like instructions from people, but like in terms of that one-on-one interaction, I've always thought that that was the best kind of thing. Like
Yep, I totally agree. I don't see the point in saying, you know what, I want to learn Spanish or whatever. Let me get me a tutor right away. Why? You don't need to pay somebody to teach you to say hello and goodbye and count to 10 or 20 or 100.
yeah,
You don't need to pay somebody for that. And in this day and age, that's my point. You don't have to, and you really shouldn't be paying anybody to teach you basic stuff.
yeah, no,
If
I
you are
agree.
truly interested, and truly want to progress, first of all, it only benefits you.
Yeah,
It doesn't benefit anybody else. So if you really, really want that, you will find a way to do basic things on your own before you go and spend off your hard-earned dollars for somebody to teach you how to say I, you, me, she. Oh, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
please.
I agree.
There, there are far too many resources, far too many free stuff, to get yourself to a certain level, that you don't need to be paying people for basic stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I personally hate when I get a student and they're literally like, "Oh, I know nothing," and I'm just like, "Yeah, this is not going to
Oh
work."
crap. Yeah.
I hate
We're.
teaching grammar. I hate teaching grammar. I hate teaching this stuff. I rather work it out with you through natural conversation. So I like to ask them, okay, what's something that you like? What do you like to talk about? What do you like to do? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I prepare my lessons around that to
That,
suit the level that they are at. But you must come with something. Don't come with a
yeah.
bare platter.
Right. Not, and that makes sense too because, I get a lot of questions on my channel recently about motivation because like the running joke on my channel is that I switch languages like every couple of weeks because I just can't decide. But like I've been on Japanese. Well, I've been on Japanese off and on for 10 years, but like I've been going since the beginning of April. Like I'm a month and a half into Japanese, and I've got a bunch of questions that are like, what is your motivation? And it's that it goes exactly into what you said. The stuff that I'm watching is stuff I'm interested in. So I may not be able to tell you, how to change a tire, but like I can tell you how to throw a P switch in Mario Maker because that's what interests me. You know what like, and that makes it just
But
it
it's
makes it
also how you
a
should
lot
learn
easier.
stuff.
It's fun. I used this example the other day. I don't know if you did it in Canada or not. This is a big thing in the United States. You probably couldn't remember something from fourth grade math class, but I guarantee you the day the parachute was there that everybody held onto it and you waved it, everybody remembers that because it was fun.
Yes. Oh, I
So,
love that game.
and you remember it because
The
it's,
cat and mouse game.
yeah, because it's fun. You remember that. So, I do want to get to a couple of things that chatted about on Instagram there, and so we can jump into this. How are the language? How are the okay? I
How are
am.
challenges of non-native English? How are the challenges of non-native English language content creators different from those of
Yep.
natives?
Yep. Sorry, I'm having trouble tonight.
I had a little trouble myself there.
I have a very specific thought about this, and that is that I think English speakers can have an advantage because I think if a Chinese speaker made a video that said Chinese man speaks English, no one's gonna care because it's not that no one's gonna care. It's not gonna be this search heavy like viral video because English speakers are there's a stereotype for a reason that we're monolingual, and it's because most of us are.
Sadly.
And so I think that in terms of language content creation, not other stuff, but in terms of language content creation, like doing videos like we're doing with language learning, I think that English speakers can have a little bit of a time if they're doing videos like that because an American speaking, I don't know about Canada, but I'm sure Canadian speaking as well, that's not from like the Quebec area, speaking more, we'll say three languages. We'll say three just to not be two from English and French there. And honestly, maybe even here, English and Spanish. So if an English speaker says, hey, English speaker, you have the videos, right? White dude speaks four languages. That's insane because Americans,
Because you're like, white people,
um, um,
what?
yeah, Americans are monolingual, right? Like
And
that's,
you really should change white to American dudes.
yeah. So like, I think that in regards to that, I think it can make it easier for English speakers to at least gain an audience in that regard because again, if Spanish guy speaks 10 languages, oh that's cool, but like everybody here speaks 8, so you know what I mean? Like it's that obviously 10, that's a little bit more of a vast, but like it's I'm sure a lot of people in Spain are multilingual.
Yeah. Most people outside of North America are.
No.
Right. And the most famous example is of the African. Like, 'cause have you ever met an African who didn't speak 4 or 5 languages?
No.
And the
I've
more I think about it, I'm like, I
yeah.
haven't. I sure as hell haven't.
Yep.
Never. Right.
I, I met a guy in
Always multiple.
yeah, I met a guy in Walmart one time, and he was standing in front of me, and I don't know any African language. like even to a point of like hello, but like he was standing in front of me and he was speaking to the cashier, and I was like, man, where are you from? And he was like, I'm from Nigeria, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's cool. I said, I'm really interested in languages and stuff, and he was like, oh yeah, you know. And I said, I said I don't know a lot of stuff from Africa, but I know languages like Wolof and Zulu and Twi, and he was just like, what in the what like. The fact that you're even aware that those exist is
Yeah,
insane. Like,
exactly.
I didn't even speak the words, but he was like, "You've heard of Zulu? What in the?" And I said Yoruba, and he was like, "What in the world?" Like he was like the fact that I even knew of their existence, he lost his mind. That was a cool experience.
Yep. Yeah. And but that's like, and that's the thing why I think that what I think a lot of the problem is that there's just a lack of opportunity to really share and people to get to know about things on a regular basis because all that's available is school, 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 school. And then it's not like you really can. There are many schools for African languages or whatnot. You know, it's a difficult thing, and there's so many languages over there. So yeah, people will be impressed and feel good and whatever when they come across somebody who they do not expect
You're
to
right.
speak these to know these languages, let alone speak them,
Yeah.
right? So
What What do you think about the content creation in terms of English speakers versus like native English speakers versus non-native speakers?
well, as far as language content creation, I find obviously it's no secret that English speakers have it a lot easier because they can literally do anything
Mm-hmm.
and people will still watch and find them or whatnot. And being a non-native English speaker content creator um, or just creating content in another language for
Mm-hmm.
the language community, and which is something I struggle with in my YouTube channel. Why my videos are so sporadic. I actually have a lot of content created. It's just not
Just not.
posted
Mm-hmm.
or anything because I can't figure out how to do this. Because on one hand, I'm not learning all these languages, so I can spend my time speaking in English all the time.
Right.
You understand what I mean?
Right.
I want to use that. I want to do videos in Spanish, but just speaking about the random stuff that I would speak about anyway,
Mm-hmm.
latest movie reviews or stuff that I like, or like how my day went, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, but in the language
Yeah.
rather than speaking about the language.
Right.
And so non native English speakers 90% of their content, number pulled out of my ass, by the way, is seems to be of a teaching approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's like let's learn Spanish, let's teach you Polish or whatever.
Right.
But you have to notice everything is still at the beginning. Obviously, they can't just get out and start speaking in Polish about English.
Right.
They've got to speak English to teach you Polish, and then they have to slow it down, and that which comes down to just basically teaching.
Right. I can agree with that.
So it comes back to like if I want to do videos in Spanish to use my Spanish, I have to try to find Spanish speaking people for the most part
Mm-hmm.
that would watch just whatever I want to create. Because most people who are learning Spanish would not be able to follow what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And as you know, subtitles and all this stuff is work,
Takes
people.
forever.
It's so long.
Yep.
It's so long. It's so
It's
arduous, and without help and all, it just stresses me out. I get really, really irritated and I end up not doing anything, or I spend a whole day filming a video doing, and it just sits there on my computer.
yeah.
Or as I've done a lot of times, I just delete it because I
Yeah.
can't figure out how to make it work.
One thing, I'll send you after we finish here. I'll send you a link. The guy that I had on, which I didn't even realize. I felt bad. I'm a huge fan of the guy, Gabriel Silva. He has a channel that is dedicated to Portuguese, but I'm going to send you this because it might give you some ideas. Because the way that he does his content, I watched a couple of his videos yesterday, and it was really cool. He'll go to an air. Obviously, it might be a little hard right now, but like he would go to like the Netherlands, and like he would speak to people and he would come up to them in English and speak to them a little bit. And it's not a hidden camera. He's got his camera out. Like, it's not
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, and so like, and he would speak, and then he, you know, they would be like, oh, I'm from so and so. And if he knew that, you know, like, for example, if somebody was like, oh, you know, I'm visiting from Russia, you could be like, oh, cool. And then just kind of boom, hit him with just a little bit of Russian. And then, you know, just kind of that lighthearted moment, like, oh, wow, we're sharing this experience. And that's what his channel, and then he'll, you know, talk to him about it, and it'll be in English, and it'll be in this, and it'll be like, it's a really cool, he has a really cool idea and a really cool way of going, like, it's kind of,
Yeah, I wish if I had the money to
yeah,
travel that way.
yeah, yeah,
But but that's what was fun about staying in the hostels,
being able
is
to,
that you do have a wide mix of people. And for some reason, there are a lot of Germans who go to Mexico. So I got to speak a fair amount of German.
that's
I
wild.
think Russian's like the only one I didn't touch. I didn't really find anybody. Um, there was these four Polish guys. Oh my gosh. Like I was so annoyed because it was literally the only people I could not understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so
The,
it was annoying me. And one night, after a club, we met these people and we went to their house and we're chilling out and everything, and they're talking, and I'm like, I'm so frustrated. And one of them kept looking over and he's like, you don't understand, and it's making you angry. I'm like, you don't even have no half idea. We ended up meeting three different times at different places,
mm-hmm.
and every time they're just like, I can see how much frustrating it is for you. I'm like, you have no idea, because they
Yeah,
were the only people I couldn't understand.
right.
So there was Dutch, even China. I got to do even practice some Mandarin every time, a little bit, and every time it was just like, "Oh my gosh, you speak this!" And so you have different people when you stay in such environments. So that's fun, and I totally agree. It sounds like a really fun premise. I did have an idea for a type of talk show thing to do here on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
but for myself, from language creators who do know the other languages or whatnot, the type of content I'd like to see is more of them using the language rather than just keep talking to me about the language.
About the right.
Because
Yeah,
it's like,
I know that's a pretty common argument within the, like, because, you know, it's always, that's why I started doing what I, not these interviews, but like, that's why I started my YouTube channel when I did, because I find that most channels don't start until after someone is fluent in the language, and then it's just them talking about it. I thought it was cool for an idea to be like, this is my experience of me going through it, and then using it every so often just to be like, this is where my progress is.
this is what I mean. This is what I mean. That's my problem with a lot of the content. I'm like, yeah, but I have no idea how good you really are because I never hear you use the
Use it.
damn language.
Right.
And as excuse me, as native English content creators, I think if you do speak the language and you've gotten it as good as you say you have and really want to impress people, why not look for those non-native creators and do collaborations with them where you're using the
Yeah.
language?
Even if it's
Half
just
and
an
half.
interview. Yeah.
Exactly, half and half or something. But I think I made a tweet or whatever I did the other day because, in case you don't know, I'm quite vocal and blunt. Um, but it's
Nice.
like I feel like a lot of what I'm seeing in collaboration sense, everybody looks like each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you're native English speaking white people. How much of a different perspective can you have on anything? You're
And
never mixing it up,
right.
right? And I think I'm like, you need diversified, speak with other people, collaborate with other people who are not native English speakers,
Yeah.
but are natives of the language that you are trying to help others learn or whatnot.
Right.
Do it with different people from a different background who's gonna have a different perspective than yours.
Yeah.
But I feel like everything's very cookie cutter. Everybody looks the same, sounds the same, and it's just like I'm not impressed by that. Because of
No.
course, I we can all sit here and go through videos that go 7 tips, 7 grammar tips, 5 ways to sound fluent, and all this crap, right?
Right.
But if I never see you use it, I have no clue how well you actually perform. I'm not that impressed.
No, I get that completely. Part of the things that, like, part of what I've tried to do on here is to ensure that I have people, like, because I had um, Maria from Portugal, and I've had Gabriel from Brazil, and I've tried to have people from at least a wide spectrum in terms of where they're from and what they've been through. Like, I've tried to actively do that because I agree with you. If I'm interviewing the same guy down the street every single week or every single night, nothing's going to change. Like, you know, it's going to be, I mean, it could be slightly different, but for the most part, it's going to be the same perspective.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, if every it's like anything. If that's you only do the one type, right? Well, you're gonna have the same. Everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
Even within the same bubble, everybody's story is going to be different, but they're going to be quite similar.
Right.
The perspective is not really going to change
Yeah.
as they pretty much experience the same thing and they do the same thing. And I'm just like, okay, so I actually came up with a little bit of an experiment slash project thing I'm trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
which I really want to nail down. And so basically, I'm looking for people who are like myself, who were raised bilingual, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Where, as I said, I went to French school my entire life from kindergarten all through high school. I didn't have any formal English education. Like nobody sat with me at home and taught me to read and write and blah blah blah. It's just watching TV
Right.
and stuff like that. And all my French education was done formally in school, just like the native French speaker
Would
that's
do.
going to be next to me. He's got the same schooling I do.
Right.
He learned to read and write the same way I did. Granted, he had a little forward on the language because he was here first. Well, not first, but
Right. I get,
that sounded so wrong.
no, no. I get what you're saying.
But by five, we were all in the same boat type of thing.
Right.
Right. So I do have a different perspective on language acquisition and language learning than other people. And I'm really trying to, I keep asking myself, is it just me? Am I crazy? Am I what? I need to know how many other people are, there's actually other people in my position, who would have a different perspective. Do people like me think it is easier to learn a language and it's not that big of a deal?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like there's people who they speak their mother tongue, but they don't read or write it.
Yeah.
And they were educated in a second language, which is generally English.
Right.
And they speak their mother tongue, but they don't read or write it, right? But they might have a different perspective. And the
Yeah.
reason they may not read or write, I've seen a few on my Twitter that said they speak Sinhalese or something like that. I can't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, when you're educated, like I'm guessing a lot of them grew up in North America.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason you're not too able to read or write in that language, even though you speak it, would be the lack of resources,
Right.
reading materials, and TV shows and stuff like that, right? So that would be a reason, but that would give you a different perspective. And do you think it would be easier or harder for somebody like that to learn new
Yeah.
vocabulary and learn how to read and write as opposed to somebody who doesn't even speak it at all,
Yeah.
right?
That's I think that would be a very interesting
And I'm like, oh, I
thing.
don't know how much of a research project I can do on this. I'm like, maybe I'll have to turn it into like separate interviews type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and just like have people give their different perspective because I really feel like I'm in a bubble that most people um, just don't relate to in the language learning community.
Right. Well, I know a few people who are in that regard, like the like true definition of bilingual, right? Where you actually are not. I don't mean read and write, but in terms of speaking both languages from a young age.
Yeah.
Lindy is native Afrikaans, and she said some of her earliest memories were getting the marks in school of your English is proficient. So she's like kind of that true quote unquote bilingual. Valeria that I had on here, which is doing that thing that she sent that message on Twitter not too long ago to you and me and Lindy and a few other people, but she is native Russian but grew up in America, so she speaks Russian and English like natively, like to
Hmm.
that. And then the guy last night, Gabriel Silva, he's actually an interesting case, and I can reach out to him and if you would want me to see if he would contact you because he grew up in Brazil until he was 10, and then he moved to Canada. He lives in Vancouver, and
Ah,
he
lucky.
he even said last night like he feels like his English like he's fine in his native language. It's his native language, but he said that he feels his English is better. Like he almost feels like English is now his native language because of after 10 years old living in Canada, and that's all he uses. Like it's a very interesting perspective that I'd never thought about. Like he's been here so long that it's like almost taken over as his native language.
Yeah, and I can totally understand that. Just like I can switch to French puis sentir aucun problème, puis pas me sentir comme, oh my God, je suis en train de parler une autre langue. Like I don't think about my French. I don't think about things. And I really actually started thinking about this question the other day when I just made like a story in Italian, and then it was because in Italian you can switch the adjective and the noun,
Mm-hmm.
and they will mean different things. Like
Yeah.
un buona amica and amica buona mean two different things. And it's always the case, always without exception. And then somebody said, "Oh, well, it's the same thing in French." And I was like, "Well, no, it's not in French because you can't say un ami bon." I would never write that. I would never say that. I'm an avid reader. I've never
I'm
seen that written anywhere unless it's like an enumeration. J'ai un ami qui est bon,
right.
whatever, whatever. But then I inserted a verb in the middle of that. Like I have a friend that is, you know. And so I ended up with Kevin Abroad and a few other people going on this back and forth thing on Twitter, and I'm just like, I'm not fucking crazy. This makes this un ami bon. I would never say that.
Right.
If somebody said that to me, I would be like, I would understand them, but I'd be like, I think you mean un bon ami, right? And or depending on the context. And then it occurred to me, I'm just like, well, maybe I'm not thinking of a lot of things because I learned it like everybody, like you do normal stuff in school and then you never think about it again because
Right.
you know how to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just found, I'm just like, some people are going to be like, oh, well, she didn't learn French, probably she doesn't speak French. I'm like, and I get really frustrated because you can't really express yourself on these things properly.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's just because I don't think of French as a second language. I just think of it as a language that I speak.
Yeah.
But I don't remember learning it, although I know I did. But it's always been as
But
far as my conscious memory. And when I learned to write words, they were all French words. And when I started to learn how to write and stuff, they were all French.
yeah.
I didn't go to school back in my country, and I came here when I was 5, so that's kindergarten. So I learned just think, and thank God it's the same alphabet. So there
Right.
wasn't
Wasn't that big
there
of a.
wasn't it wasn't that big of a, well, thank God for me, because like I said, I wasn't educated in English. So if the alphabet was different, maybe I would be like those people who speak their mother tongue but don't read or write it.
That's true too. Yeah.
Right. So that could be a cause because there's not English, even though I'm in Quebec, it's French or whatever, English materials are not lacking.
Right.
Right. English TV is not lacking. But if you
It's
live in,
everywhere.
but Russian TV, German TV, Indian TV, whatever, that could be all lacking. That is all lacking if you live in North America
Yeah.
and you don't have access to that. Right? So it's normal that you would not be proficient in these things. You never read anything in Russian, obviously. You're never going to acquire more than what you hear.
Right. Yeah. I
So,
I know that I think when I was interviewing Valeria, she had mentioned that her Rush because she still to this day like both of her parents speak English, but they all only speak Russian to each other. She said it's just like this weird thing like where they just only speak Russian. But she said that her Russian is still like a young child's Russian
mm,
because the rest of her life is in English, but just her home life is in Rush. So I don't know, but that should be interesting to talk to in that regard because it's a very, especially with the different alphabets and stuff like that, in terms of that. So she can read it. I know. I don't know, but at what extent did she have to teach herself? Because I think she went to school in America. You know what I mean? So it's
well,
a,
that's the thing. That's
it,
the thing. In that case, like I assume, like her parents would probably have to take the time to, make sure she could at least do the alphabet,
yeah,
right? So luckily, Russian is not like English. If you know the alphabet, you're pretty much guaranteed to read things properly.
yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah,
There's not, except with the O and the A and the accent, every letter sounds like it should all the time,
no,
right? That same does not apply for English, and that's why you just have
no,
to know how to spell stuff
yeah.
in English. Which is actually somebody made me notice. Is English the only language with a spelling bee? And I was like, I think so.
Probably because if you did it in Spanish, everybody would pass because it's phonetic. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. Like Russian's pretty much the same thing. Italian's the same thing. You're pretty much guaranteed to be able to say something correctly or spell it correctly
yeah,
simply by hearing it. No such luck in English, my
no,
friends. And
not at
no
all,
such luck.
not at
No
all.
such luck.
I have a question here that says, "Would you guys learn an African language like I think that's Hausa, right? Hausa or Afrikaans?" Yes,
Um,
I studied Afrikaans for a little bit.
Swahili.
I would like to Swahili.
Yeah, Hakuna
Okay,
Matata.
I would like to learn.
Good start.
And I don't even know if it's that I would like to learn the language like to a high level, but like I'm really interested just in a lot of the cultures in Africa, just because like it's not something that you're really taught a lot about. And
At
I
all.
Yeah, and so I would like to learn, and I'm specifically interested in, I believe it's Yoruba, or is it Zulu? I think it's Zulu. Maybe it's Yoruba. One of those still like the language actively still has like some of the clicking sounds in it.
Jolly.
Yeah, and
I only
like
remember that from a Russell Peters show. He was talking about this guy, and he's like, his name was Jolly. Jolly.
yeah, like I don't know. I found. Oh, okay. He said Hausa is a popular clicking language. To me, that's interesting because that goes past the idea of just communication in terms of like the words we're speaking right now. That's adding a whole nother element to it, and that's super interesting to me.
Um, a few of us here wanted to organize. Well, not wanted. We are organizing a language conference slash festival yada
Hmm.
thing. And see, that's one of the things we were talking about. But I'm still trying to figure out how to go about that and what's not. Because hold on, that didn't make any sense at all. I sound like Bush, not Bush, Trump. I sound like Trump. Yes, and it was very big, and it was a very beautiful language, a big, beautiful language,
Big beautiful languages.
surrounded by letters and punctuation. Big, beautiful punctuation.
No, you're good. Take your time.
Oh my gosh, it's just too easy. It's just there. Um, what was I saying? Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought.
Organizing a conference.
Yes, organizing a conference,
It's a
and
convention.
one of the girls was saying, we could have, introduction to African languages and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a fantastic idea, but there are so many.
Yeah.
How do you choose and how to narrow it down and how to make it something interesting? And the problem I have with language conferences is after that is, well, what now?
Mhm.
Have you been to any of the language conferences at all?
The only thing I've ever been to regarding languages at all was it was by technicality a conference, but um, I went to NASC, which is an Esperanto. It's
Oh,
essentially
right.
like an
Yeah.
Esperanto convention. That's the only thing I've ever been, and that was only for a day. So no, I've never been to any of the conferences.
For every those who are watching, please let me know because I'm desperately seeking ideas and stuff here. And so, me personally, the way I view language conferences, Polyglot Gathering, Langfest, what have you. I've only been to one, that was Langfest.
Hmm.
Um, I get what we're trying to do, but I find it pointless in the sense that there's nothing new.
Right.
As in, it's the same speakers, it's the same speeches, it's the same things. There's not really anything you're going to tell me new
Right.
about how to learn a language or how to, study vocabulary or tips and tricks that I can't already go on YouTube and find, or
Yeah.
Instagram or Twitter every single day. And then what compounds it is the fact that all these conferences, you can go on YouTube and watch them. So
Yeah.
I've gone on YouTube and I picked Stephen Krashen
Hmm.
and I watched like four different um, speeches, whatever,
Yeah.
from different events. And at the end, I'm just like, they're all basically the same
Yeah.
because there's only so much that you can say. It's not like you can really create something new every day.
Yeah.
And it really annoys me when I see people with, oh, my 9 unique tips for language learning. I'm like, there's nothing unique about it.
Right.
It's like, what have you told me that I've never heard before? Absolutely nothing. And I get the aspect of, engaging with others in a real life context, meeting with people, and especially getting to meet people in real life that you've already connected with. I can get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel if I'm gonna, spend time getting on a flight for most people, and booking hotel, I want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel like I'm a part of something, like I'm participating and not just sitting in a room listening to a conference that I will see online
Right.
in a week.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to look for ideas, but I can't really figure out anything that's not long lasting,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean. Because I have
Yeah.
my business here that I'm desperately trying to promote and grow
Mm-hmm.
and want everywhere. And it's basically just a coffee shop for the language community, right?
It's a
And
good idea.
with something like that, the idea, like I was saying before, is the lack of opportunities to use the language to really keep in focus. So the idea is to provide the community with a resource place. It's the place that you go to when you just want to hang out and chill with people, have your language gatherings, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the place where you find all sorts of resources. Not just people, but about schools, tutors, whatever, what have you. It's also places where you can find books. I mean, to have fun with, like in
Yeah.
reading or whatever, for studying, lots of games in different languages. So let's say, you really need to get back into the Spanish, keep motivation. You got a few friends. Don't sit down and play Monopoly in English with a dictionary. Just play it in Spanish in a,
Yeah.
more real life context type of
Right.
thing. You have activities you can participate in. But um the idea is like as far as the language conferences go, so like when you host a language conference and you present things like, African languages, a few of them, even if you get people to be interested, at the end they come and just like, well, now what? Well, how do I maintain this? Who do I? And
Right.
I'm just like, well, that's the problem. I feel like conferences would have more value and more of a oomph or something if there was like, hey, they were introducing you to stuff and showing you stuff, and hey, this is how you can actually use it and maintain it. There's a space right there in your community. It works in your own schedule. You participate in what you want to participate in as often as you want to. But over time, I believe it will show that the more you engage, the more you participate, the more you make an active effort at using the language, the
Right.
faster you'll find yourself reaching fluency without having to um, waste a lot of time on things that are really pointless,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
videos are useful. Don't get me wrong. Videos, podcasts, blogs, they're useful if you put into practice what they tell you, which most people don't.
Yeah. I've always joked that I want to make a video on my channel, and I don't want to do this because I don't want to turn people away. But like I would love to make a video, and it would just be the most important video that you will ever watch regarding language learning, and it's going to be about 5 seconds. It's going to be like, "What's going on, guys? Welcome. My number one tip for learning a language is stop watching videos, go study," and then in the video, like,
I say I have a lot of content because I watch them. I'm just like, ooh, Sonora, no. I was just like,
yeah,
people are too sensitive. They're too sensitive. They can't handle this.
yeah,
But that's basically my idea. I'm just like, what is the point in spending hours of your time watching all these videos, reading all these blogs, listening to podcasts,
yeah.
if you're not going to put anything
Thing to
into
use.
use?
Yeah, I think I'm speaking just from an American standpoint, and like I relate this to
Yes, Ada, a language
I,
center, which is what's behind me. I'm actually sitting in there now. It's a mess, but
um I relate this a lot to weight loss. Like I lost like 60 pounds, and
oh,
people
congratulations,
thank you,
félicitations.
thank you. The question always is, what did you do? Well, I stopped eating garbage and I moved more. But as soon as you say that, the response is always, "Oh," because people want, like, it's like people will listen for hours thinking that there's going to be a magic, like,
Yep,
just nugget of wisdom in there that's like, that's the shortcut. I got it. And
yep.
I don't know if that's in the world, but in America, that's our way of thinking. We want that shortcut to the quickest thing, you know?
Now, 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 now,
Yeah.
now, 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 me, now, now, now. Oh God,
Yeah.
I know.
And so that's the only thing that I can really equate it to, is just the idea of we want something that is we want now, and I will spend 40. So if I knew I could learn a language in 100 hours, I would spend 98 learning how to learn a language in 2 hours. And that's the mentality. Like that's where we're at.
Oh my God. I'm pretty sure we seem to have a lot of we seem to be a lot on the same wavelength of thought when it comes to this.
Yeah.
I I've just never been somebody who gave crap what other people thought.
Right.
Like when I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, I was just like, "Oh my God, this is me!
Right.
This is me! I just never knew this is me."
Right.
It's not that I don't care and I don't go out of my way to be rude or blunt,
You just
but
yourself.
I can't tiptoe around everybody because everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Look, I made a post the other day on Instagram, and it was the day after Trump said that people should suggested of looking into drinking or injecting disinfectants or whatever.
Mm.
And I made a post and I put in my stories. And I'm like, if you need to be told
Not
not
to
to
drink.
drink disinfectants, you are a goddamn moron, and I feel no pity for you. None.
Right.
And then there was another one with the 7-day language learning thing. I was like, if you really think that you can learn a language in 7 days, you're a moron, and I feel no pity for you so long as feeling discouraged about it.
Right.
And somebody wrote me and they're like, "Are you angry?" I'm like, "No, why?" She's like, "Oh, well, your stories are just negative. It's so," I'm like, "Oh, you seem to be focusing a lot on the negative stuff." I'm like, "I'm not focusing on the negative stuff. Well, I'm not allowed to express myself."
Right. No,
And this is what I can't tiptoe around everybody.
yeah, no, and that's I think that's the way that more like I know that people will do what they can to amass an audience, right? Like that's the but I have a much higher respect for people who are just themselves at whether I agree with what they're saying or not. You know what I mean? Like that's how much I appreciate people being themselves. If I disagree with you on a point, that's perfectly fine, and I'm happy with that because you're not just saying, "Oh yeah, that sounds great," just because you don't want to like be the guy who has a different opinion. You know what I mean? Like that's why I choose like on Twitter. I don't really participate in any of the like Kevin Abroad's like his little linguist whatever stuff
Yeah,
he does every
I
day.
frustrate myself.
And and it's because I disagree with a lot of stuff, but I also I don't know, man. I just I don't
I hear what
I
you're
don't
saying.
know.
I hear what you're saying. I sit there often. Often I'm just like, what the fuck is you saying? I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I'm like, is this really worth talking
yeah.
about? Really? But it's not personal to him.
No,
It's
no,
not
no.
personal to him.
That's what I was
But
gonna
I
say.
sit there and I'm just like, you know what, Sonora, just don't respond. Just keep scrolling. But there's only so much scrolling I can do before I need to get shit off my chest.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
only so much scrolling.
and like I said, to be 100% fair for anybody, I think Kevin is a great dude. I have nothing against him. I just disagree. There's a lot of stuff that's posted on Twitter, not just Kevin related, that is, in my opinion, it's people trying to be like, look at me, right? Like the idea of like, and when you'll indirectly call someone out and they'll tiptoe around it. So it'll be like, this person said this and I don't agree with it. Well, who was the person that said it? And then they just won't acknowledge it, right? And then
Oh yeah.
somebody else will come in and it's like, well, who said that? What's going on? Nothing. Because they make it like it's a personal attack at them.
Yeah.
And so, like, if it's a personal attack at you, why do you not care? Why do you care, right? Like, I think, and I've said this before, I always talk about it. I think that the two videos that disgust me the most are Ikena's video of learning Spanish in 2 weeks and Xiaoma's video of learning Spanish in 1 week. Those videos.
Oh dear God! If you have links to those, please.
Yeah. Like, those videos disgust me. And I have nothing against those guys. Like, I don't have anything against Ikena or Xiaoma. I hate those videos, and that's okay. Of course, that would probably be mistaken in some way, and like their fans would come, which no one would. Honestly, if they come, go for it. But like, it would be like, oh, you're just attacking it. I have nothing. Look, these guys run successful businesses on YouTube. I have nothing but respect.
It's what it is. It's a business.
I don't like those types of videos. I like other content they make. I fully agree with Ikena on Pimsleur. I think Pimsleur's fantastic. There's a lot of common ground there. I think Xiaoma, what he does is really, really cool. I like that he goes around. It's the Moses McCormick Laoshu go around talking to people. He does that just with a little bit, with the camera out. It's not the hidden like he does great stuff. I just happen to hate those videos. But I'm also not afraid to be like, it's these guys' videos that I hate. I hate these videos. Like, I'm not like, what's going to happen? Like, first off, I'm way too small for any of these guys to care about. Like, but I'm also not going to make a video titled Xiaoma and Ikena are idiots because A, they're not idiots, they're smart, and B, I'm not trying to bank off the fact of trying to attract an audience by slamming these guys either. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense, and I totally get where you're coming from. But I've dropped a few comments on a few videos, and I've gotten responses back like, "Oh my God, you're so harsh. If you don't, if you can just scroll by if you don't like it." And like, first of all, when you put yourself out in the public and you make yourself a public figure, like I was saying on Twitter the other day,
Yeah.
it's part of the job. Deal with it.
It is.
Because
No,
if you can't, because if you're gonna say that to me and you can't deal with it, I better never ever catch you criticizing a celebrity, criticizing a movie, a book, any goddamn thing, because it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing, and it doesn't matter what you do, what you say, how you say it. Somebody gonna disagree.
Yeah. No,
Somebody not gonna like you.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
I get stuff like I have another channel like it doesn't deal with languages. It's just another channel I have, and it has like it's got like 1,500 subscribers, and so it'll like I guess it's gotten to the point to where it'll attract different stuff from YouTube in terms of being promoted. And I get comments all that like still to this day. I haven't uploaded in 2 months, but I'll get notifications and I'll go read the comments, and I'm like, I already know what this is gonna be. This is somebody being like, "You're fat," or just like typical insults. And so I'll go there, and of course it'll be like, "Man, you're huge," and I'm like, "Dude, if you think I'm fat at 230 pounds, you should have seen me at 290 pounds." Like, because whatever, man. Like, I get hate on this channel from time to time, dude. I get some stupid comments sometimes. But you know what? I feed it because every time they come back and answer, that's a view for my video, which tells YouTube it's doing well. And it promotes it because the algorithm says, hey, you're getting interaction. So leave negative comments. You can thumbs down stuff. It doesn't matter because there's not a difference in thumbs down and thumbs up. It tells YouTube that people are interacting with the video. So I'll argue with people. Not even argue. I'll just be like, yeah, cool, dude. Like I'll keep antagonizing it enough to where it'll continue. Because every comment and every view is just another promotion into the
So you got more
algorithm.
patience than me. I'll answer once and then I just get fed up and I stop. When people just start going too much, I get fed up and I'm like, I ain't got time with this shit because at the end of the day, I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure most people would not be as vocal face to face
No.
as they are in a computer.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, you know what? No matter what, fuck these people. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to say what I want to say. Because if I'm the type of person, if I portray one clean image online of one in which I never swear, I'm always put together, I always smile, and I'm always like, of course, you're great.
Right.
You meet me, it won't take no time flat to be like, oh God, that is not her. You'd be like, this girl
Right.
swears like a trucker. She's seriously opinionated. She got something to say about everything. Things I can work on, but I'm just saying, I would be a different person. It wouldn't take you that long to figure it out.
Yeah.
So all the things you thought you liked,
right
you
aren't even
probably
real.
won't like.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I'm getting more and more comfortable with the fact that, hey, I may not have a huge following. I'll probably just have a more smaller and loyal one that actually gets me.
Yep.
Because I don't feel the need to treat anybody with a sugar-coated kid glove. Grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
No. And that's this is going to be a super weird segue, but like that's what I really appreciate about, and I don't know if you care for the guy or not, but that's what I like about Matt versus Japan, and that's because he doesn't tell you the information you want to hear. He tells you that you need to hear, right? He's like, hey, 5 minutes a day, you're wasting your, especially because his thing is Japanese. At 5 minutes a day, in order to learn Japanese at the 10,000 hours that they recommend, that's going to take 300. I looked it up today, 387 years to learn in terms of
Holy
the time.
shit.
Yeah. So like, but he's not going to be like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, you do that and it'll be fine. He's like, that like, I like the bluntness of it. And that's why people don't like him. But that's why I respect him. Hey, I don't want
No, 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 for sure. That's yeah.
I'm going
No, no.
to. I don't know if that person. I don't know. I don't like comments like that. All right.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Somebody said that you would make a good mama. I don't. I don't. I don't. I mean, it's probably meant in good. I just. I felt kind
It's
of.
okay.
I felt kind of awkward about it. So,
Hey, it's your channel.
but
You do what you feel.
I don't know if it
But
was
I'm
meant
just
disrespectful or not. If not, I'm sorry for putting that in timeout. But it caught me the wrong way.
oh,
Cool.
sorry, not to cut you off. If anybody writes me, feel free to DM me anytime you guys want, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. That's what it's there for. Right. I don't need people to ask permission for that. However, if your ass does just write, hey, do not expect a response. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I do not respond to hey.
Hey.
One, I'm not a horse. And two, what the hell do you want me to say but hey?
Yeah. Hey. Hey. Okay. Well, now we're back at square one. Yeah. Yeah. I do want to get to this the second question as well. I know. Hold on.
Oh my
Sorry.
God, have we not gotten there?
No, we still got the second question here. I think that's it. Alex Trotman, just on Instagram or Twitter, just message her and about the tutoring. Do you want to give your email? I mean, in on here, I don't know if it's like a secretive email or not, but like not
You
secretive, but
can just send me a message or DM me on at Lang Struggles.
yeah, Twitter or
Insta
Instagram
and Facebook as well.
and Facebook. There you go.
Keep it easy.
Okay, yeah, so here we go. We'll get to this question as well. What does it mean to be part of the language? This is actually a good question. What does it mean to be part of the language community, and how is it different than any other?
Ha. Um, I'll let you take this one first.
Sure. Yeah, so I think that first and foremost, with any community, there are negatives. Like, that's just a given, right? I think any community is going to have its bad seeds. From the people that I've interacted with, but it's also people that I have sought, people that I have looked for.
Sought.
Yeah, so like it's people that I have looked for, but like for the most part, I think everybody has been pretty solid. I've noticed that it doesn't really seem to have. There's not this hierarchy in the, and I'm sure there is to an extent once you get a little higher up, and I quote that, but like, you know, there doesn't seem to really be a big significant and a big discrepancy in terms of people talking to people. It doesn't matter if they have this huge following or a small following or anything like that. People in general, if you love languages, for the most part, seems like they want to interact with other people that love languages. I do think that there are some bad seeds, and I do think that there are people who post crap just for the sake of, oh, look at me, I'm getting, you know, somebody used a linguistics term wrong. That's not a Kevin Abroad shot either. There's a lot of people that talk about linguistics, and that's just a poor example. But like, you know, like, oh man, somebody used this term wrong, so they hate me. Like, and I know that there's a lot of that woe is me stuff, but I think for the most part, it's pretty solid in terms of being a part of. I think it's a niche thing, so the people who love it love it. It's not a casual thing, right? Like, there's not a lot of people that follow me. I'm sure there's not a lot of people that follow you that are just casual, like, oh, I kind of want to learn Spanish. Like, it's probably people who love for the most part, it's probably people that love languages, right? And like the idea of learning multiple languages or whatever. And I think that is what makes it special. And I know that other fandoms have that, but like, I just feel like in the language community, it's a more tight-knit group because it's like such an obscure hobby. Because in most of the world, it's just common. It's not even like a weird thing, right? In America, it's like, whoa, holy crap. Yeah, that's like, and I feel like it almost brings people closer together because of that weird niche thing. I talk to people that I have met via languages more than I talk to my own friends here. And it's just because of that. Like, I talk to, like, I talk about this a lot. Luke Truman. I talk to him all the freaking time. Like, I consider him a really good friend. I've never met this dude in person, but I talk to him all the time. Like, and it's just someone I met through languages. it's just a weird. I don't know, man. I feel like it's a really close, tight knit group. I went forever. I'll let you.
No, no, no.
But that's I do. I think for the most part, it seems pretty down to earth, pretty humble, pretty pretty I think it seems pretty. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Sought, seeked.
I think it's relatively decently diversified too. You have Moses, who Moses is a black dude, 1 million subscribers. You've got Gabriel Silva, who is a Brazilian, who's got two. Like the bigger guys, like I think it's at least somewhat. Lindy is a woman, and she's a huge channel. Like I think it's at least maybe more diversified than some of the other stuff. Maybe it is because it deals with cultures. I don't know. What is your take on that?
um,
Which I know you mentioned earlier about the diversity of the interviews and stuff like this, but in terms
yeah,
of
that
that,
was very specifically on. Again, I haven't seen every single video out there.
sure,
I don't know every content creator out there, but for the many of the collabs that I seem to find, it's a lot of talk about nothing, and it's
mm,
just with people who look exactly like them.
right,
So, so yeah. But as far as the language community, the more and more every day, I feel like I need to kind of disassociate myself from being a part of the language community,
hmm,
because having since I went to Linguist last year and I met a few people, some of these content creators or whatever, and just like anything in life, you're not going to like everybody
yeah,
just because. You're not going to get along with everybody just because. And I'm not going to call out anyone, but some very specific people, all right, who have pretty good followings.
hmm,
One in particular, for example, was like, oh, because I had my little booth for the language lounge.
hmm,
And so they're all like, oh, yeah, this is great. I think this is wonderful. You should totally do this thing. I have this project I try to do every year, for women or whatever. And this is awesome. Like, just made it seem like it was the biggest encouragement and they were, behind it and everything. And okay, cool, whatever. During the holidays, I was planning a GoFundMe campaign, different kind of stuff, because I'm trying to work in this business and I'm completely by myself.
right,
And it's not going to work by myself. I can't run a business. Nobody can run a business by themselves.
right,
And it really requires a lot of support and stuff like that. So, which is obviously really what I'm after. I said, hey, I'm looking for some support, which means essentially right now it's like, please just share a page. You guys have blogs or whatever, talk about the concept. I keep saying it's something that I know will work around the world.
hmm,
It's something that will, as content creators, as tutors and whatnot, it's something that will benefit you, especially since most of your stuff is online.
hmm,
Even if the shop is in Canada, customers can still reach you online for whatever services you provide and stuff like that.
right,
So I wrote to a few people who all wrote back. Some worked out, some didn't. But this one particular person was like, "Oh, well, I have something coming up." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll write you back after the holidays." About 2 weeks after the holidays, I see them quite active, and I said, "Hey, did you forget?" Blah blah. I'm trying to be PC about it. Oh well, I'm really quite busy. I don't really think I can change my schedule and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, well, you have no idea what I was going to talk to you about. It had nothing to do with changing their schedule, spending a penny, nothing like that.
yeah,
I just had my thing that I was preparing, and I just wanted to know, are you cool if I put your name? Because obviously I'm going to be promoting you,
right,
and I'm going to need certain things from you, but it's not going to cost you anything. It's a win-win. If my thing works, you'll get more customers. If it doesn't, nothing, and you lost nothing.
right.
And then they were like, oh, well, I'm so busy. Can you send me a message? And I was like, bitch, are you serious? Like, who do you think you are?
Man, I
And again, that
mm,
stung because you stood in my face
yeah,
to face, and you made it seem like you were so encouraging and so supportive and blah blah blah. And it was the complete opposite. So it's like, just so you're a hypocrite essentially. You're two-faced and you're a hypocrite,
right,
right? And because you don't see how I'm immediately benefiting you or something like that,
right.
you feel like because you have 30, 40,000 followers and I barely have 500, that you can just blow me off and tell me to send you a message. Like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah,
Right? Type of thing. And that really hurt my feelings a lot. I got to be honest. It really hurt my feelings. And
understandable.
what made it worse is that a little while after on Instagram, they posted a story a post, and it was like, "Hey, I just moved to this place, and I was looking. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to keep up my language because I don't know how many people speak it here." So they took a chance, were able to make a post in a coffee shop, a local coffee shop, looking for other speakers of this language, and to their surprise, they ended up finding a decent group and many people who lived there already, but just didn't know each other and didn't know each other spoke Welsh. And I said, you know what? I screenshot that and I said, this is what the language lounge is about. This is exactly the point. So you don't have to wonder where people are. You don't have to wonder how you're going to find. Am I going to be able to do this because I moved? Or this is what it's all about. Like you're
Yeah.
proving the point. And they wrote back a comment like, "Yeah, big up language lounge." And I'm just like, "This, you're such a fucking hypocrite. You don't even follow the language lounge. You've never
Man.
liked anything. You don't drop a comment. You've never made a shout out or nothing, but yet big up language lounge." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Bitch, you do not talk like that, first of all, white girl. You do not talk like that." So
That's
those are things that I'm just like, people are people at the end of the day.
yeah.
So maybe there's something about me you didn't like and you don't feel like I fit in your circle or whatever, but you still felt like you needed to put on this whole show and whatnot
Yeah.
about it. And I just feel like that's what it is a lot of the times. I feel like there's people who are just there for the money making aspect of, hey, if I can
Yeah.
build enough of a following that I can make decent bread that I don't have to go to work and do something for somebody else, well then I will pump out anything that I need,
Yeah. I
whatever that
I
is,
agree with that.
right? I took a few of those master classes and then they pretty much all came back to the same thing. Nothing you do really needs to be original. Look up what everybody's doing, what the popular videos are, and just recreate that and
And
try
you
to put some kind of spunk on it that's your own.
yeah.
But you really don't have to create anything original. You don't have to do anything original. So
Yeah.
essentially, you don't have to put work into anything, just copy everybody else. And I disagree
That's
with that. And I find it, again, it's just
it's
people wasting their time because it comes down to who can make a flashier thumbnail.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's essentially what it comes down to, right? Who can make the flashier thumbnail and have the great flashy editing.
Yeah.
But essentially, most of the content, again, that I find that I want, they're essentially the same thing. And it doesn't matter what language you're looking into,
Yeah.
it's essentially the same thing. I've read a few books on language, and they're all the same thing. They come back to being the same goddamn thing because there's
Yeah.
only so much we can do. And as part as feeling a part of the community, like I said, I feel it only goes as far as who likes you,
I,
like
it makes
anything else.
sense. Yeah.
It only goes as far as who likes you because I've tried to reach out to a few people to try to do little collaborations or whatnot. But then it comes down to I'm a nobody with not even 1,000 followers. They ain't got time with me.
Right.
But I thought you're here to. I thought we're supposed to support
Support
each
the
other.
community.
And but how do you do that if you only are supporting those who look like you? You only are supporting those who are in the same status as you,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
and like being in the Black language learning community,
Mm-hmm.
I find it's a huge freaking problem because I find a lot of them are one way on their support. It's like, hey, support me and follow me and do all my stuff, but God forbid I should, drop a comment on your stuff. Or I'm like, what is this? And every time I try to reach out, like, hey, let's do a live or let's do a collab video, it's always like, well, I'm not advanced enough, or oh, you know what, I'm really busy right now and I'm doing my thing. And I'm just like, well, I don't understand.
Right.
And I'm just like, guys, this is exactly why, like anything in life, white people will always be ahead because they're actually working together, and you guys are sitting here like it's going to be building itself.
Yeah.
I'm like, none of these people built their channels completely on their own. It's all about collaboration and working with other people,
Yeah. It's networking 100%.
right?
And that's like the idea of everybody is locked in their house right now. There's nobody that doesn't have time for something. Like, and I'm not saying it has to be right now, but like, do I technically have time to do 5 and 6 interviews a night or a day, a week? Jesus.
Probably, yeah.
I mean,
Chances are.
yeah, like I can do it. There's other stuff I could be doing, but what? Watching TV? Like, it's just one of those things. Everybody has time. I think a lot of that, especially with some, I had a, I can chat about this at some other point, but like I had a very similar experience when I asked somebody about. As a matter of fact, I had someone comment on a tweet I made about who should be on or who wants to be on this podcast or whatever, and I had someone be like, me, and I messaged them, and it was the, oh, I'm busy, and I was like, what the hell, what? Okay, well, what was the comment for? Like, but I think it's for that public appearance. I'm wondering if it's the same human being, but that's, but like,
But that's the thing, you're left to wonder.
yeah, but like and I was like, okay, but like, with what? And then it was, I got hit with the line of, let me see if I can fit you into my schedule. And I was like, well, you're approaching this like I want you to be on the show, and it's not that I don't, but like, you reached out to me, like, so what? Like, so I don't. It doesn't really matter. Also, to be fair, I missed the message. I wanted you on the show, and I know you were like, hey, I said I would be on, so and I just missed that. I don't know
Did
if
you read that with attitude? Did you read that with attitude?
no, you said I said I would be on, and I was like, oh crap, yeah. So I think the problem is when I first started it, if you would have told me that I would have done 30 interviews in the course of barely over a month, I would have been like, you're out of your mind. There's not that many people who's going to want to talk. I think I got a little overwhelmed at first, not knowing how to schedule and like just being like, oh crap, I'm doing this literally every day. What's happening? Like, and again, my fault, but I'm glad that you didn't just take that as you're a douchebag, and I'm glad that you reached back out and were like, hey, I totally, like, what's up? I said I would be on the show because I'm glad, because this has been a fantastic conversation.
I give everybody the benefit of the doubt because I'm like, maybe he forgot. Not
Yeah,
because I wrote a message, because we literally spoke about it one time for like 2 seconds. I'm like, maybe he honestly forgot. And
yeah,
I know you do your thing and you have your kid and whatever. I'm like, maybe he just seriously forgot. That's why I wrote it back. But
yeah.
I'm like, this was very clear and specific and immediate. So if I didn't get a response to that, I would have been like, fuck you.
Right, right. Yeah. And that's kind of like my fear now is like as I'm getting more and more people on, like I'm like I actually downloaded because of instances like that, I downloaded a scheduler app. So any person I talk to, I put in my phone when they say they can do it, when I mess like I put a whole thing, right? Like there's even like
Look at you go.
I'm talking to there's a girl on YouTube that makes videos about Korea. Her name is Natalia Garza. I'm sure I butchered that, but I sent her a message and she was like, she's talking about finishing up schooling and just some different stuff, and she was like, if you'll message me back, because I did reach out to her. She wasn't like, I'll be on it now. Oh, I'm busy. Like I reached out to her, and she said, if you'll reach out to me and give me a month to kind of get settled in with what's happening. And so I put that in my phone a month. I didn't do it exactly a month, like a month and a week later. I said I got it in my schedule to reach back out to you and message on this day, because I know if not, I would forget. Because my brain is terrible, man. Like I have a really bad brain in terms
Yeah,
of like remembering.
that'll happen. I always give people the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like, hey, you could, just like the story I was telling about the girl there that I met. I'm like, again, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she forgot. She
Hmm.
does do a lot of things. Maybe she forgot. But by the tone of the response for the message, I was like, bitch, you did not forget shit.
Yeah.
Like, you're just making me run after you because apparently I'm a black dog or something. I don't know.
Right.
But
Here's
yeah,
here's
you can forget stuff.
here's something I want to chat about. I don't know if you have time. We've been going for 2 hours. You good for another minute or two, or you want to wrap
I'm good.
up? Okay,
I'm good.
we'll chat. I do want to ask one more thing. Specifically, if anybody has any following questions, like I know that the viewers have went down a little. So I know there's not as many people watching, and so you can get your question answered if you want. I tried to get questions today, but I felt like we were just kind of clicking on all cylinders there, so I was just going. And but like, so you talked about being black in the language community. I obviously can't, like, I can't even try to comprehend like anything that you would say in terms of like what it's like going through that. Like, do you think, like, because you talked about struggling with stuff, not necessarily in terms of because you're black or anything, but like you'd mentioned being black in the community and like, oh, maybe this girl didn't like me or whatever. Like, do you think that, like, what kind of trials and stuff maybe have you went through? Like what kind of like has like what kind of difficulties has that have you kind of had to kind of overcome to be able to do what you're doing? You
Um,
also
I,
totally don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
no, no,
I just
no.
like,
Um, like I said, I grew up very multicultural. There's always different people around. There's no one set group.
yeah.
Yeah, generally it'll be mostly white people, but there's not one set group.
Mm,
But I also, thank the Lord, mwah, have not lived any real kind of racism
mm,
or discrimination. It's not to say
cool.
people haven't said wrong things to me, but it's been so few and so far between. It's not my first thought. Is that not like, oh my God, it's because I'm black. It's not
Right.
my go-to response to anything.
Right.
Like some people say that, and I think maybe you're just a bitch. Ever thought of that? I don't know. But no, it's not an immediate thing. But again, when you watch these people's contents and you watch what they do and who they collaborate with and who they seem to support and talk to, you can't help but wonder,
Why it's
right?
lopsided.
And especially since um this person anyway in particular is from Europe,
Mm,
where I've never been to Europe, but from what I know, it's not as, or what I can tell, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, it's not as fluidly mixed as it is here in Canada.
gotcha.
Yeah, of course, there are black people over there or whatnot, but it doesn't seem to be like as fluid as a mix of people
Yeah.
like as it is here. Again, when I look at these people's like Facebook pages and I see their pictures, they're very homogenized pictures.
Mm,
Everybody looks the same.
right.
There's you can go through 50 pictures and not see a drop of color
Right.
in any of them. And to me, I'm just like, that's weird. My own
Like no.
family is so fucking mixed. My own family is really mixed,
Mm,
right? You got some Romanians, some Mexicans, some German, Guyanese. So
tons of.
seeing different colors and stuff in a photo album, that's normal to me. But when I look a lot of these people, which are mostly generally tend to be Europeans, it's very one shaded.
Mm,
It's yeah, it's anything between the albino white to I'm tanned, but pretty much everybody's white.
right.
So a part of me, I'm not saying nobody in the language community, at least in my perspective or
Yeah.
my feeling, has been directly or indirectly racist to me.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't go spreading anything, anybody.
Yeah.
But you can't help but wonder.
Like if there's like an
It,
underlying, like almost like subconscious.
it's like, is it because I'm black? And then another weird thing I keep thinking with my business is that, am I crazy and it's actually not a good idea? Or are people not wanting to help promote it and sort it because they feel like somehow, um, if it does take off and people are like, hey, if I'm using this, it actually makes it a lot easier and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
they'd spend less time watching YouTube videos and less time on podcasts and stuff like that,
Right.
and more time interacting in real life, that I'm somehow going to build up a way to take away their easy life of just creating content
Right.
so they can distract people from what is actually easy about language learning. And that's, as long as you can use it, find a way to use it meaningfully, that's the way to fluency
Mm-hmm.
really, really fast,
Yeah.
right? But again, doesn't matter how many hours of videos I watch, it doesn't matter how many books I read, how many blogs. If I don't put anything into use on a regular, consistent, meaningful basis,
Yep.
it's a waste of my time.
Yep.
So I think if I create some, or if something is created and people again see like, hey, using, oh my gosh, this is so much easier,
Yeah.
that's going to diminish the use for so many content creators, because it's going to be like, well, what are you going to tell me that I don't already know?
And it's a good point because when I before I just recently switched my study pattern up because like I was just strictly apps. Like I would basically use like Duolingo or Lingo Deer for like 20 or 30 minutes and then I would spend an hour and a half watching YouTube videos of people learning languages. I didn't get any results for like 2 or 3 years, right? Because I was literally doing the same thing every day with but nothing. And then I switched it up, and I don't watch a lot of YouTube. And there's still a couple of content creators that I absolutely like will watch because I really enjoy them. Um, I've had to cut that down to like 2 or 3, because I would rather spend 2 hours watching some sort of native content, studying, some like I'm doing Japanese, so I'm studying my kanji flashcards and stuff. and then spend 10 minutes be like, oh cool, well, I'll catch this guy's video today, and then I'll spend 10 minutes tomorrow catching, this person's. And like, so I've cut down on the amount of content that I watch. Granted, I've taken that up by, instead of watching an hour of content, I do interviews almost every day. So I guess I'm still spending an hour away from it, but I get a lot more out of it, because when I talk to people, hearing people from, different, Gabriel talking about learning English after he was 10 and feeling like he was better in it than Portuguese, or talking to Maria from Portugal and how she grew up learning English, and she talked about how they learn English there, how none of the content they import is subtitled. You just have to watch it dubbed over. You have to watch it in English, and like hearing this stuff puts things in different perspectives for me. And I take something out of every interview, whether it be somehow this study pattern or somehow they did like, and so that's why I do this, and I get more out of this interviewing somebody than I do watching random person on the internet's YouTube videos.
No, je peux comprendre ça. Like, so yeah, so you do French, right? You've done French.
I've studied
You've
French a
gotten
little bit. I could not tell you, but I have studied French. Yes.
Ok, ouais, c'est bon, c'est bon. Tu me suis si je parle comme ça?
No.
C'est trop vite?
C. I have no idea.
See?
My
Actually, C works.
my French. I couldn't tell you anything about French. I love it. It's beautiful, but I can't like. I struggle. And it's the sounds. It's the pronunciation of French that kills me, because
And
like
even, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna, like the words are like 40 letters, and it's just like mo, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. What do you mean mo? What happened to the uvu like at the end of this? Like, it's so difficult for me.
And see, here's the thing too. Because whatever you've used to learn the French that you've acquired is probably France French,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
right? So I'd have to speak to you under that type of accent. Because even people from France, if I start speaking too fast in Quebec, or they don't follow me completely through, they will lose me
Yeah.
at a certain point. So that must be even more confusing if you're just like, first of all, I studied French, and I'm not really comfortable with it. And now you're throwing in a different type of accent and pronunciation and stuff that just, you might as well not speak the language at all.
Right.
At that point. Those are interesting things that I believe having a place to attend to would really help, and stuff like that.
100%.
But the language community, I feel like it needs a home. But I feel like those who are in a position to to have the most influence, should spend a little more time encouraging people in exactly that. Drop this video, go out and use it.
Yeah.
I think people need to keep stressing it doesn't matter how many videos you watch, you need to use it.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody wrote something on Twitter. It was so fucking stupid. Something about, they don't want to learn to talk. They don't want to start talking to other people before like having spent like 400 hours in the language. And I'm like, that is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I was like, that makes no sense.
I'm doing immersion, like, for sure. Like, I'm more so worried about the input, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to output. Like, it's going to be a balance. Like, at the beginning stages, I'm inputting because I don't have anything to output. But
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean I'm not trying to shadow a little bit, or stuff like that, because I do like that. Actually, in terms of me learning, and this may be the same for you, like when I speak stuff aloud, it sticks in my brain more. Same thing with writing stuff down. If I'm learning a kanji character and I'm struggling with it, I'll try to jot it down, because just that connection of brain to hand helps. If I'm having trouble saying this word, whatever it may be, like I don't know, let's say like subarashi, which is like wonderful in Japanese. Like if I was struggling, I would just be like, okay. Yeah, I would go and listen to someone say it, like whether it be on Jisho or whatever dictionary, or if I found a specific clip of someone saying it, and I would listen it and I would shadow it a bunch just to try to get it to stick.
I just try to use different voices. Kind of like kind of like if I'm reading for an audition of something, and you're trying to see what voice will work for the character. I
Right.
kind of do it like that, but like subarashi, 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 subarashi. Like I do stupidness like that. Um,
I mean,
it's not wrong or right or good or bad. I have no clue, but that's my way of having fun with it and be like, whatever. However it comes out, it comes out. Because even if I think I know how to say it properly and correctly, when you're finally in that meaningful moment of a conversation, you're not really thinking, it may not come out the way you
no,
think it'll come out.
for sure.
I've been there. It doesn't always come out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with me with a lot of people where I'm just like, what are you waiting to speak for? It's for example, if I said, you know what, I followed Big Bang Theory and I loved it so much, they actually made science seem cool and fun. I want to get into it. But what am I going to have to do? I can't just expect to be able to win a Nobel Prize for doing experiment. I'd have to go back to the beginning,
Yeah.
properly understand the periodic table, what atoms are, what neutron, and you have to build up slowly, 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 and surely before you can have complicated E equal MC squared type conversation.
Right.
But it's a language on its own, right? And
Yeah.
as much
It's
English as I
exactly.
speak, as much English as I speak, and as comfortable as I feel, even in French, I don't do science. So I
Right.
don't speak science,
Yeah.
right? So if I wanted to get into that, I'd pretty much have to go from scratch. And what would be my study tips? Pretty much the same thing. Make some flashcards, do some practice exercises, try to, get in the lab and do your practice. And I feel like I use the correlation of science with language learning because I said it's imagine for me like way I try to explain the language launch to people. I said imagine that you're a scientist and you're after that Nobel Prize, which in this case we call fluency.
Mm.
But you've only ever had a kitchen to work in, to do your experiences.
Yeah.
But then somebody says, hey, here's a lab. You have all the beakers, all the tools, whatever is it you need to carry out whatever experiment you want at whatever rate you want. There's a lab, everything that you need to help you properly reach that Nobel Prize, right? Are you going to use the lab or are you going to keep in the kitchen,
Right. Yeah. You'd
right?
use the lab.
Well, that's what I feel. I feel like I'm trying to create labs for people, right? Where yeah,
With
you go at your own rate, you have all the tools that you need, whatever. If you want to reach Nobel Prize winning status, you can do
can do
that.
it.
You have the proper tools. If you can't find something, you know who to ask, you know where to ask, and better your chances of finding that something. And even better, you don't have to go out and buy everything yourself. It's just there.
It's just there. Yeah.
It's just there, and you use what you want, like going to the gym, right?
Perfect
Nobody
example.
forces you to go to the gym. How many people don't pay for memberships every month and never use them?
Oh yeah.
Nobody forces you to go to the gym. Nobody tells you how often you can go, when you can go. That's why they're 24 hours some places.
Yep.
You do what you want in your own schedule. If you want to go and use the same machine over and over and over again, that's your problem. The language lab kind of works the same thing. If you want to go and read the same book over and over, that's up to you.
Yeah.
If you want to get a trainer for that more in-depth training of whatever body part or whatnot, they're there if you
You
want
want
them,
them.
but you're not forced to take them. In the same way, there are tutors at the Language Lounge, and if you want, you can have them. If you don't need them, leave them. It's really up to you. We're just a venue that's providing you as many tools and as many resources as we possibly can to make your life easier.
Yeah.
And that's my thing for the language. I feel like having something like that too. It's an easier way to introduce and maintain things like African languages and cultures.
Hmm.
Because having a space, you can have a guest, a different guest every month, and promote a different language every month, a different African language every month or so, and really keep people engaged and have more than just like, hey, this. Now you're on your own basically. Until next year when we have another conference where we'll tell you basically the same
Same
crap,
thing. Right.
right?
Yeah. I like the. I mean, I think it sounds like a super super awesome idea. I think it's something that I mean, really and truly is needed because there's always that starving. And one of the most common questions on any YouTube video of any language ever is just where can I find native speakers, native content. You know what I mean? So it's
I
like,
hate that question. I
yeah,
hate the native question. I'll tell you why really quickly. I'm sorry, I'm really having a good time with you.
no, no, you're
Um, I hate the question of Oh, any or when people go, they go on Facebook a lot and you see this. Oh, can anybody teach me French? I can help you with Mandarin. And my question is, what do you mean by teach?
Right. Are you meaning like grammar? You mean it? Yeah. What are you
So, like,
meaning?
do you want somebody to like put a curriculum to, what is it people mean when they say they want natives? Because you're forgetting that if you are a beginner and you're terrified to talk or anything, it doesn't matter if they're a native. You're not going to be more inclined to speak. Actually, you'll probably be worse. And
Yeah.
besides that is you're asking that person to bring themselves down
Right.
to your level, to have that kind of patience, to have that. And I'm just like, you ever think that maybe natives don't want to because they're not teachers and they don't want to be teachers? Maybe they like you well enough, but they just want to talk to you about any other thing they would talk to you about,
Right. Not about, yeah, like I
right?
have two cats. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Or you keep you're like, or you're so shy and so insecure that you keep cutting off your sentences. And I really hate when people do that. Like my one English student I have in particular, God bless him, I love him so much. But when he's not sure, he'll stop his sentence. And like you remember just now when you were going, is it seek or is it sought? He'll do things like that, and I'm just like, well, I don't know. You actually have to finish the sentence for me to answer that,
right.
because I can't. It could be either one, but I have to know what the rest of the sentence is.
In order
He
to
does that
figure it
all the
out.
time, and I'm just like, that's what I'm telling you, sweetie. Just say your sentence, then we'll go over it, because both are actually possible depending on what comes next.
And realistically, right? Like, if I would have said that sentence either word, it would still be understood.
Yep, it really would. But
Yeah.
people get so, as adults, we already have complex thoughts and we already have a life history.
Yeah.
We want to be able to express ourselves right away and immediately, and we can't, and that builds a lot of frustration. Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
I know when I'm all in a good Spanish conversation, and then at some spot where I would use an expression, an idiom, and I stop and I'm like, oh fuck. Now I have to explain it, and now it doesn't make sense anymore, and I lose my train of thought. And it's just like,
This is the whole.
right? But that will only come in time of really using it and using and using it. And I really believe that that's what's needed. Nobody needs another pizza shop or coffee shop or whatnot. We really need something for us, a place for us that's for anybody really,
Yeah.
where you can always find that in real life support. You can always find the resources that you need and stuff like that. Again, no matter if you have any kind of service that's language related, you sell a product, you sell whatever it is, we'll promote you. That's not a problem. We really want people to know what's out there and let them make their choices.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing is, too, is if you make language learning more accessible, more people are going to do it.
Well, more people are doing it with,
So,
since we have apps.
right. Well, yeah,
That's
and that's a
that's
great
pretty much the
example.
only reason. It's pretty much the only reason most of us can afford to be so involved
Yeah.
in languages, because we have it for basically free or next to nothing,
Right.
right? Whereas in 10, 15 years ago, that was $4,000 at least.
Right. Yeah.
And you still didn't speak after.
I remember. I definitely can remember the cost of Rosetta Stone. Like, and that was in 2009. There wasn't a lot, but it was expensive stuff. Like Rosetta Stone. You know
Wasn't it like
the
2000 or something? Is it that
um
one? I remember somebody had something that was like $2,000. I was like, per language.
there. I think this one was. I mean, it was. If you honestly, if you bought all five of the units or levels, it probably would be. It seems like each level was, yeah, like 250 or 300. Like, it was something pretty crazy at the
Okay,
time.
so
Which
it's
you can
that.
do it. You can do it digitally now if anybody likes Rosetta Stone. You can do it digitally. I don't have Rosetta Stone, but because I changed my study methods. But it's like, I think you can pay maybe even like 150, and it gives you basically like access unlimited, like a lifetime member. See, you can actually rent Rosetta Stone essentially now. You can pay. It's like, I think
Rent to fluency.
I, I think it's like I think it's $79.99. So, and they break that up into three payments, and you pay that You pay whatever, like I don't know, it's like $25 a month, essentially, a little bit more. And you pay that for 3 months, and you basically have access to whatever language that you're looking in for 3 months, like for that. So you're essentially renting it, but then it expires, so you can't use it again if you wanted to use it, down the road sometime. But
No, there's still some pretty expensive things out there, and all in all, and everything's different. I don't criticize too much because Lord knows I cannot do any better. Um, no, on a serious note, which is Kevin Abroad actually had one of these the other day. It was do you think language learning apps are useful? I was like, well, first of all, that's uh, opinions are like assholes type questions.
right,
It's going to be different for everybody's going
everybody.
to have an opinion, and that opinion is going to change from app to app to app. So it's like these are one of the pointless things I find people find a lot of time talking about. That's wasteful time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, if they weren't useful, there would not be so many,
Yeah,
right? And secondly, if you're really unhappy and criticize so much, go, please be my guest. Build your app
build
if you
your
think
app.
you can do so much better. I know I
It's
certainly can't, so I shut my mouth. I'm grateful for what I get.
yeah,
I'd be like, I like this app for this one for this, that one for that, X, Y, Z. Not tried that one. I can't try them all. I don't have time in my life to try them all.
yeah,
Nor do I have a desire to. I just but things like that, opinions are going to change from person to person to person. But of course, they are useful. Of course, they
yeah.
are to different degrees for different things,
Yep. And that's,
right?
I recently went through my thing where I deleted all the apps from my phone, and so like I've had people ask me like, well, why don't you like apps anymore? And I said, I no one said I didn't like apps. I just had like my problem is when I use apps, I don't have the ability to not dabble. And so when I would log on to Duolingo to do whatever language I was doing, I would see all those flags at the top. And so instead of sticking to Spanish or whatever, I would be like, ooh, let me try that. And so the reason I deleted them wasn't because I don't think they're not useful to an extent. It's that it was enabling me to not focus on one language.
Yeah, it's distracting.
Yeah, that was, and it was, man. And I would get, and every language you sign up for, you get a notification. So it'd be like, boom, you need to study Swedish. Boom, you need to study Polish. Boom, you need to study Spanish. Boom, you
Ah,
need to
that
study
is
Portuguese.
so annoying.
Yeah, and so, and that's, and since I deleted that, I mean, I've stuck with what I'm working on for a month and a half with absolutely no ambition to try anything else because it's not in front of me. What's in front of me is what I want.
But you see, that's the thing too with language learning apps. And just like you can't spend all day just staring at a screen. Like I
Yeah,
don't see the point in having 20 different apps. I can't use 20 different apps.
yeah,
It's just screen time, just staring at a screen, just staring at a screen, just staring at a screen, just staring at a screen. And I was like, oh my God. Again, they have their usefulness in different areas. For example, I think if you're learning in Asian language, definitely Lingo Dear. That's my number one go-to. And
yeah,
that's what I recommend to everyone.
yeah.
They teach you to write, they separate the alphabet, everything. I find it so well-rounded.
Oh, it's vastly superior for Asian languages for sure.
It has a huge like their notes before each lesson are incredible. It's like
Yeah,
having a huge ass notebook with you at all
times.
times.
Yeah,
The recent updates, the way you can go and review like vocabulary or characters, and you can choose what you want. You can really they really make it so you can nitpick at what you want, review what you
yeah,
want when you want. That is so useful because I can skip all the crap and I'm like, I really don't need to do this again. I know it.
right.
Duolingo does not have that,
Yeah, yeah. You have
right?
you.
They don't teach you to write. They try with their notes. God bless them. They're trying with their notes, but it's not in every language, and it's certainly not as developed as it is in Lingo, dear.
I think, and I think what shows is, and I know that this is where people are like, yeah, but Duolingo's free. See, the thing is, even if you pay,
Ish.
well, it's free-ish, but from where you can still access the site fully for free, even people who are paying for it are still getting essentially what the free version is. Lingo Deer costs, but you're also getting way better information and it's designed better, and it's because you're paying for it. Like, free doesn't always necessarily mean it's the best.
Oh, free generally means it's
Free
not the
free
best.
means it's free. And so you're paying for Lingo Deer, but I can't stress enough at how much more thought is put into Lingo Deer,
God
especially
bless them.
for Asian languages. And again,
Oh, God bless them.
I'm not I'm not using applications right now, but Lingo Deer is designed so much better. The audio, first and foremost, is
They
in,
use real
yeah,
people.
is incredible. So
That little boy in Chinese, he is so cute. He's adorable.
yeah,
Every time I'm just like, oh, you are too fucking cute.
yeah,
Um, but I like that, and they use real people. And again, on the review course in Lingo Dear, you can review video or audio. So
whoa,
like, yeah, you could at least in the Chinese version, and you really hear it. And so you can like play it at regular speed and then slow down.
yeah,
Even the slow down one, it's not that slow.
that's
It's not super enunciated slow.
right.
It's kind of like, okay, slow, slow, slow.
Right. That way you still get the feel for the.
You still get the feel, and since it's real people, they have like I guess a bunch of people saying the same things, so it really gets mixed up. And I notice I'm just like, oh, some people I understand and some people I don't. Because there's
Right.
one guy, I swear to God, I have to keep there, and I'm just like, replay, replay. I can't understand what the hell he's saying, but if a girl says it, one of the specific girls, I get
You're
it
good.
every single time,
Just because of their speech pattern.
just because of how they speak, and that's what I adore about Lingo Dear and Memorize. God bless him, trying a bit of the same thing. Again,
Yeah.
at least for Chinese, they have that, so that's really cool. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say
Yeah.
next. But yeah,
Yeah. I
that's my go-to, and I recommend it highly.
I wanna check it out, but like I don't want like I'm I don't want to. Even though I'm a month and a half in and I'm pretty motivated and stuff, I still and I feel like that habit is formed, but I still don't want to enable myself like because that sounds really cool and I'd love to check that out, but like. Man, I know as soon as I download that app, I'd be like, all right, Vietnamese time. We're dropping Japanese. So, like, I'm going to, I don't know. I'd like to download it again at some point just to check it out, but
Okay,
I got it.
so we have Ada here who says, I'm currently studying French and trying to find native content from other countries that are French speakers. Do you have any recommendations? Oui, oui. Um, I'm asking this because I don't want to depend only on the French accent. I want to understand other accents in French. I'm the only two main accents I can think of are the international one, which is again France and everything else. 'Cause everything else came from there.
Right.
And mine, Le Quebec. If you're looking on YouTube right here, completely free. Hey, there's something called Caméra Café. Let me write it here. Uh, so it's Caméra Café. It's a French show. Oh, duh. Duh. It's a Quebecer show. And limited characters. It's about an office, a group of office workers, and it pretty much all happens by a coffee machine
Mm,
that they get installed the first day. So it's like the coffee break type thing. They talk about life, this, that, a
yeah.
little bit of everything. But that's a fun show. Not only is it French, so you can get into the French different accents and stuff, but it's also again if you watch that type of show, you'll also learn a lot of Quebec culture things, right?
That sounds
As with
super cool.
anything, you'd get more into the Quebec way of things, and maybe not at first if you've never heard it, you'd be like, "What the hell did they just say?" But you'll get around to it, especially when they're speaking proper. There's another show called Les Bougons. I love Les Bougons. It's kind of like Shameless, if you like Shameless,
Gotcha.
but it's the Quebec version.
Le Bougon.
It's the Quebec version of Shameless, if you will. That's really good, and that's very, very colloquial talk.
Nice.
Even more than Camera Cafe, because it's more like life and not office talk. So you have real life street talk that you will talk at home and in the streets.
Right.
Then you'll have a little more cleaned up version that you use in the office. So I think those two shows would balance well, showing Quebecer
Without.
life and also the accents and how you would talk to your boss as
Right.
opposed to your child or your friend.
Which is good.
Um,
Good information to know. Like in terms of different politeness and stuff.
well, see, en France, they are really super on their high horse about vous voyez, comme parler avec le vous. Uh, Bonjour à vous. Je vous dis allô. So the formal you. You're looking at me like deer in headlights right now.
I have no
It's
idea.
like, what is she saying?
Is it it's the usted of
It's the
France.
usted.
Gotcha. I was just like, yeah, man.
Actually, it's the ustedes. There's no
Ustedes.
singular formal in French.
Ustedes. Okay, it's the ustedes of France. I got that. I got that.
Yeah, because there's no singular formal. Not like in Italian and German. Anyway, so the ustedes is vous. And in France, even like people of your own age, if you don't know them, and especially superiors and stuff, they take it very seriously that you would always say vous. Comme bonjour,
Huh.
Jonathan, vous allez bien? And in Quebec, we ain't got time for that shit. If you look about my age, you are not my superior. This is not any kind of formal thing. It's tu, bitch. It's tu. Right? So I'd rather
Right.
say ça va, but I wouldn't say that to my boss. I would say vous allez bien, because ça va
Got,
is just street and rude, right?
gotcha.
But in Quebec, we don't take that too seriously. So if you meet somebody of about the same age and you said tu, they're not going to be like, oh! But somebody from France would be like, I didn't give you permission to un-ustedes me.
Right.
You know, you must always ustedes somebody
Yeah.
in France until they give you permission not
Permission.
to.
That's funny because that's very Russian-like. Because in Russian, they basically have to give you permission to use the what is it? To use the V form. I think is it the V form? It's the
It
basically
would be
some.
the two. It would be the two as well.
Yeah,
V, T, T,
T
T,
T
T,
yeah
T,
the T
T.
they basically and they like that's literally how they'll tell you. They'll say, "Oh, you use the T form with me." Like it's a very that's cool. I never realized that or knew that, but that's very Russian. I don't know
It
which one
pretty
did it first, but
it pretty much goes for, as far as I can tell, every language except English. We don't. It's all in English. It seems to be a lot about how you say it,
yeah, not
right? Because
necessarily
I can't. You can't differentiate you.
right.
You can see the difference in you, but you cannot hear
Hear
it,
it.
right? So if you just heard me going, "You there, move," you have no idea if I'm talking to one person or more unless you see who I'm
See who it
talking to,
is.
right? Other languages don't work that way. You know
Well,
automatically.
in the South of the United States, we
Y'all.
we we say y'all. I don't say y'all. Like I'm from the South, but I don't. I mean, like I don't know how my accent is. Like I sound like myself, but like I don't think that I have a very Southern accent.
No, you don't.
But yeah, in the South we'll say y'all. I am really guilty as a joke. I got this from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Jay would always say "use guys," so like I started saying that as a joke, but now it's literally just part of my speech. So when I'm talking, I'll either say "use," like I'll say "what are yous doing," or I'll say like "use guys," it started as a joke, but it's literally just in my speech pattern now.
You put it in there so much.
Yeah,
I say y'all. I say y'all. Use not so much. I'd be very intentionally like playing a dialogue type role to say
right.
use. I've heard it before, definitely,
Yep.
generally from Southern Americans, um, but
Oh,
I wouldn't
dude.
necessarily use it. But I wouldn't be surprised if I heard it either. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
like, what? No,
Right. I would
but
that often. Like I'll even go into work and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like,
uh,
and like I said, it literally started as a joke to myself, and now it's just part of my speech.
that's where I throw in a good old y'all. What
Y'all,
y'all
what
doing?
y'all
What
doing?
y'all doing? What y'all doing?
Yep.
Y'all.
Y'all.
English is weird. Nobody
Yeah.
knows why, but it's just weird.
Yeah. It's well the best
Um,
explanation that I've ever heard for it is someone said, um, like for example, in Spanish the alphabet fits the language. It's all phonetic and stuff. And he said the alphabet does not fit the English or English language does not fit the alphabet. Like
no.
it really needs a different alphabet. Like it's a weird, I don't know. It's a super weird thing. But
Every
it's
time I see these little notes in English, I stop and I think about it, and I'm like, huh, never noticed that before. Like how Australia, has three A's and they're all pronounced differently.
Australia.
You see, you had to think of.
Australia. Yeah.
I
It's
had to think about it. I was like, oh, I was like, I've never noticed that.
yeah.
I was like, oh.
There's a thing that somebody that my friend that teaches English in Japan pointed out to me is that because he had to teach his kids this and once you know it you can't not hear it, but like in English if the word ends in a consonant and the next word starts with a vowel, the word so like let me think if
The
I can
liaison. I don't know it in English. See, this is my example of I know what you're talking about. I cannot explain it in English, but I can explain it in French. Tu veux dire le terme la liaison?
yeah it's the word like you split that letter off and it goes to the next word, so like this word will become it's almost like a different and you don't notice it until you're speaking like all right for example speaking at a quick rate speaking gat a quick rate like it's and the way that the last consonant jumps off onto the vowel word I never noticed it until he said it, but now every time I do it I'm just like what in the world, like it's super super
That's a
strange.
great way of actually trying to understand Quebec or French because we take that to the extreme.
Just every word you're just like
So it's
put
like
the letter over there.
so in Quebec French should be like je m'en vais. Very distinctly different words. But the je m'en becomes je m'en, je
Right.
m'en, right? But if I said je m'en vais, you understand that I'm leaving. But if I said je m'en pas, I'm not lying. So like I'm saying two literally different things,
Things, right.
but that sound pretty much exactly the same, especially to the untrained ear. Say, je m'en jamais. Like I never lie. Je m'en vais. I'm leaving. But that je m'en part probably sounds exactly the same to you.
Oh, it for sure does. Yeah.
I would not write them the same.
That's interesting. Yeah. French
The
is
first one,
man.
the first one as in I'm leaving, I would write J apostrophe M apostrophe E N. And the other one, like I'm lying, je m'en, I would write J apostrophe M E N T, like the proper verb.
The man French, dude, I like that's
So
the
just chop off the E.
French
Um,
they chop off everything. Like I said, like the word would be like
Vous allez is a perfect example. Vous allez doesn't really sound. Vous allez être whatever.
mm-hmm.
But you have to take that Z
Mm-hmm.
from the um, sorry, the S
Right, right.
and transfer it
So
like to the
vous
beginning of
avez.
alley, so it makes like a zali.
Right. Yeah,
And it's a
because
Z sound, not an S sound. So it's
yeah,
vous allez and not vous sali. Because that's you salt, which is something completely different.
French. I tell you what, man, people can knock on English, and I know it sucks, but in terms of difficult, but French is a beast. Like, especially.
Ah, I think we have a Quebecer here. Philippe on sort du Québec. And James Anthony, he has a difficult time understanding Quebec French, even growing up essentially surrounded by it.
Yeah, it's man. Like, well, I know Aaron um Aaron from Fingtam Languages learned French, and he told a story about after he learned it, he went to Quebec because he was like, "Sweet, this will be, I'll get to use my French." And he got there, and he was just like, "Oh, nope, can't do that." He was talking about how terrible, like he was like, "No one understands anything. I don't understand what's going on." And he's like a very proficient French speaker.
Americans Americans tend to do this thing when they speak a second language where it's either they sound very robotic
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. But I feel like sometimes you can tell when an American is speaking as opposed to anybody else
Right.
because it just feels like I don't know if it's forced. I don't know what the right word for it is.
They don't. The best way that I can describe it is they don't leave their own accent out of it. Right. Like they won't try to. Like for example, like I always joke that like people from the South, if they're learning Japanese, they wouldn't say konnichiwa. They would say Konnichiwa. Like they would still have that their own thing in it. Like, and that's the only way I can think of to describe it because they don't try to pop out of their own accent. They'll stay in their accent and speak the language.
Like hola.
Yeah. Oh,
Enemies.
where's
Are
my?
Quebec numbers the same as French numbers?
Whoa. Hold on. Why did my?
I'm pretty sure they are. Just the accent that's different in French Quebec, not the language itself.
Oh, okay, we're okay. It's back. Sorry, my OBS died for a second. All right, we're back, and it like turned the live stream off for just a second. All right, cool, we're good. Um, but yeah, it's like it's a weird thing where people won't leave their own accent out of something. Like they'll just be like, yep, this is just I don't know. It's a weird, but again, I think it's one of those things where there's like this subconscious mentality for Americans where we're like, well, we've at least tried to learn the language. We shouldn't, so they should be happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so if I sound like that speaking, they should be happy that I've taken time to try and learn it. It's
Oh, on my way to Mexico on the plane, I left from Montreal, right? And so they pass you out these immigration paper things you have to keep,
mm,
you have to fill out. By the way, if you go, do not lose that piece of paper. I thought I lost that paper. I almost had a goddamn heart attack. Because they won't let you out. Anyways, it's a bunch of trouble. Don't ever lose that. Point
right.
is, the people next to me, I had this couple next to me. And so they pass out the papers. We're going to Mexico. What language do you think these papers are going to be in?
If you're going to Mexico,
Yeah.
they would be in Spanish, right?
And what secondary language do you think?
What secondary English?
Yes. Because
Because
most of
it's
the world is
right.
going to speak
Speak
English or
English,
Spanish.
especially at terminals and stuff like that.
This couple, there was this couple next to me, this French couple. The guy gets the paper. He turns on his lights, getting ready to do it. And he looks at it. He's like, "Oh, me c'est tout en anglais, Carlis." And he turns it around. And he's like, "Me está en español." And I'm sitting there going, so he was essentially pissed because he was like, "Oh, it's all in English." And he turns it around. He's like, "Oh, this is all in Spanish." And I'm just like, well, what else would it be in?
Right.
I don't understand. Are they supposed to have an Arabic form and a Polish form and a?
Right.
But
We're
he
going.
was really angry at it. And at first in my head, I was just like, "Oh, I'll do mine, and once he calms down in a second, I'll help him out with his." But his whole attitude behind it, and he was really irritated. And again, this is where a certain part of this you can't really understand unless you lived in Quebec for a certain amount of time
Mhm.
and deal with certain shit. But this is where the entitledness of Quebecers come in a lot of times. Whether you're in Quebec, it's French, 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 everything is in French, blah, 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 blah. You're outside of Quebec and they still want everybody
To
to speak
speak.
French and be French and blah, blah, and get mad because things are not in French. And I'm sitting there going, what language is it supposed to be in? I don't understand.
Right.
I just don't get it. I'm like, and the worst part is they go to Mexico often. How do I know this? Because they were talking about it.
They're
And I'm
talking.
like,
So it
according
shouldn't
to
be
the
new.
it should not be new. That's why I was really confused, and I kept playing back their conversation, going, did I not hear right?" And I'm just like, no, 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 no. He was clearly talking about what they did last year because they went twice last year, and yeah, you just know people's business on a plane. But
Yeah, yeah. I
it
get
was
that.
clear he's been through this before.
Right. So
So
he
what
should.
the big surprise was, I was like, "You're the type of people who don't leave the resort, and you probably should not."
We're going to
For everyone's
Mexico, and
sake.
this is in Spanish. Why is it? Why is this not in French? What?
And I kept thinking, I'm like, am I crazy? Did I not hear something right? Is something wrong? I'm like, no, okay. It's like things like that I can't stand. And that's why I think we need a multicultural world, a multilingual world, I'm sorry. So people can have more of a chance to experience. They can have the opportunity to even learn to do basic things like that.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Learn the basic things for travel. It's like, it doesn't matter where the hell in Mexico you're going to enter this country, you will be given this. Let's learn how to fill these out properly, understand the vocabulary on them, and because they give you two sheets, and one has a bunch of questions and stuff on it, and I was like, oh my God. But I think if you can have an environment where these things can be made normal and generalized, where people can just go and find the information, it would really, really help. About numbers, Danish. Okay. Somebody asked, and this is another question in French I see a lot, and I don't understand it. If numbers are the same in France as they are in Quebec, French is French, people. I'm not sure how to say this, but we have different accents and different colloquialisms here and there, and certain words are different. For example, in Quebec, you park your car in a stationnement. In France, you do it in a parking. Um,
Right.
in Quebec, you have a fin de semaine. In France, you have a weekend and stuff like that. But it's still French at the end of the day, just like in English. In England, they have the lift. North America, we have elevators. In England, they have the loo. North America, we have a bathroom.
Bathroom. Right.
But it's still English, right? We may pronounce our numbers differently, but they're still the same numbers. We write them the same, spell them the same, all of that. So French is the same thing.
French numbers are absurd with the like this is 240s and 8. You know, like I can't think of an example, but like the higher up numbers when you're having to add stuff together, like
Over 61. That you see, as somebody who grew up speaking French from kindergarten and studying French, that's one of the things I never noticed until I think one of the most popular videos about that is this guy in his car. This guy who's driving in his
okay,
car and he's talking about French numbers. I see it until I saw that video about a year and a half ago or so. It actually never occurred to me. I never thought about it
right,
because I'm just used to it. I've always counted in French. So I'm used to it. It's not something I thought about. I paid any mind to until it was like literally pointed out in one of these language learning videos. And I'm just like, huh, well, look at that. It's true.
right, because you're used to it because it's literally what you grew up with. Like that is what is quote unquote normal to you.
Exactly. I never gave it a second thought. And now I give it a second thought because it's been pointed out. And now I see it more in other structures, like in Russian or in Mandarin and stuff like that. I see it more. It still makes sense in these other languages, but still, um, or like in German, you know what? Numbers are never ending,
Right.
right? Are there regional
No doubt.
dialects within Quebec? Yes, there are regional dialects within Quebec. Um, we have les Acadiens, the the Acadians. Now that is the weirdest thing you'll ever hear. It's not English. It's not French. It's a weird mix of both that neither English people nor French people really understand.
It's just like it's on its own.
It really is special. I remember the first time I heard it. Um, I went on a date with this guy, and like we only spoke online, not actually speaking. So and he spoke for the first, I was like, "What the hell is that?" It did not sound good, like at
Oh,
all. It's kind of, it's really, it's bastardized English, even more bastardized. It's bastardized French, even more bastardized, but mixed together.
huh. That's. I guess it's kind of. I was trying to think of anything that I
It's
can
weird.
relate similar. I guess it's almost like you ever heard like Cogni, like from England?
Yeah, but I can't really
Like
tell if I'm hearing it. That's the
yeah,
thing.
like the I think it was what Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. The movie had it, and like and Brad Pitt played the Cogni guy, and like they had to subtitle. It was English, but they still had to subtitle his lines because no one could understand what he was saying because it's just like this really thick. I don't know. It's super weird.
I was watching Dragon's Den, and somebody had one of the only language projects I've seen on any of the Dragons Den, and it was basically like Mad Gab, but for accents. You're
Oh,
familiar with Mad Gab.
yeah.
It was for accents, and it was like, oh, somebody would read a sentence, and you have to try and guess where the accent is coming from. And one of the accents he picked, the guy Peter, I think it was, who's actually has Russian descent, is of Russian descent or whatever. He picked up. He's like, "Oh, that's a Cockney Russian accent, for example."
Right,
Right?
right.
And I was like, "How in the fuck would I know that?
Yeah, I would have.
Like, nobody outside of England knows this.
Yeah.
Like, they are so specific. They can really narrow people down like that. I don't think we can really do that in Quebec. Although there are parts where you'll sound more like people who live in like Les Cantons and like little towns like Matane will not exactly sound like those who live in like Montreal, for example. They'll sound a little rougher. And if you do not understand people in Montreal, you're probably not going to understand them
Whoa.
because it's going to be even thicker. Their accent's going to be, I may not understand some of them. And it's happened to me. And I was like, wait, what are you saying to me?
Whoa. That's
Um, because,
crazy.
because it's just so much thicker,
Right.
right? And they've held on to a lot more of the real French thing, which is something I was saying before. Here in Quebec, we like to make a big deal about, oh, it's French, it's French, it's French, it's French. But you'll hear a lot of people use English words and just with a French accent and stuff like that. Like a girl at work one time, she goes, "Oh, t'as juste besoin de lower." I whipped my head around. I said, "What? De le lower to lower it, like to
Lower.
lower."
Right.
Yeah, t'as juste besoin de le lower. That's what she said, and I'm just like, no, 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 no. ABC. T'as juste besoin de l'ABC. Use your own language. And
Wow.
somebody like this irritates me even more because they're the type of person like, well, français, blah, 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 blah. They're always with their French thing, French. I'm like, well, then leave my language alone. If I can't
So,
find lower ray in the fucking Larousse, you do not use it.
right. Yeah, because it's. I mean, it's not. I guess if it's not a word, I mean,
So they just bastardize everything English, but they'll promote and jump on the French thing so much like it's the end of the goddamn world.
that's. I don't know, man. It sounds. I would. I mean, realistically, like, I would like to visit there, like, just to do it. Um, I mean,
Come
plus
on down. Always welcome.
I would like to at some point leave the United States just because not like moving, but like I would like to just visit. Like I've never been out of the country, and that's always
Sad.
something. Yeah, it's definitely sad. It's something I want to do. I was supposed to go to Japan this year, and well, that did not happen for
I am so happy I
obvious
got to go to
reasons. But
Mexico before this whole thing started. I am so goddamn happy. It's not even funny how happy I am I got to do that. Um
yeah, you were there in like what February,
yeah,
March-ish.
yeah,
It was like right
February,
before it started.
right before. Like literally 4 days before the official lockdown.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like, if I had checked the news, I'd probably still be there now.
man.
'Cause I was like, all right. Um I was just gonna say something real quick.
Yeah, no.
No, I forgot.
Okay. Well,
Anyway,
guys. If you have any further questions, let me know. I am going to start wrapping up here.
I
Just
think
because
Quebec is the only
it's
place I know with translated stop signs, though. Please tell me where there's one that says stop. I will physically go and find it. You will only find them saying arrêt. You will not find an English one anywhere. Not to my knowledge, anyway, but again, I haven't crossed every square inch of the territory. I have not come across every single stop sign. But this is coming from a province that here in Ottawa, I could drive over to Quebec in 5 minutes because one of the other cities is literally right over the bridge.
mhm.
Most people live in Quebec and work in Ottawa because it's cheaper. And so now with the whole COVID thing, if you take the bus, when you're in Quebec, you'll see like they put up little signs or whatever, but it's only in French. You won't find not one English, not even a little smaller lowercase thing, nothing in English.
It's just
You will
all
not
French.
see in if you when you take public transportation here in Ottawa, they'll say it in English and then they'll repeat it in French. For what reason sometimes you don't understand. It's like, "Oh, next stop, Bank Street. Prochain arrêt, Rue Banque." It's like, "Really? You couldn't really?" But you go to Quebec, don't expect to have anything translated and whatever. Everything will be in French.
They're very
They're so pushy. They're trying to pass these new laws where everybody gets all communication of official documents in French. That means your legal papers, your bills, your whatever will all be in French, unless you're part of this elite crew of some what is it called homegrown English people. I don't know,
that
but
sounds
that's but
really
that's
complicated.
well, that's how much they are scared of losing French and they're pushing their French. Is that, oh, we don't care if you don't speak it, if nobody in your house speaks it, we don't give a shit. We will send you all your bills, all your stuff, everything in French. You need to figure it out, and it's your problem.
Right.
That's basically what they want to do.
You're gonna learn by baptism by fire, like
Obviously, I disagree with it. I'm like, what sense does that make? So people just arrive of they can't just learn it overnight. No matter how many YouTube
yeah,
videos are out there saying learn it in 7 days, it's
right,
not gonna fucking happen.
right.
Right? So then you have to somehow, I guess, find money for translators and stuff like that. Free classes
Hmm.
fill up, and then it costs a whole. But Quebec is so stuck in their language thing.
Right.
They have a whole part of the government. They really do their best to push everything French as much as possible, and it's like using any bit of English is just death to them, except when it's convenient for them, of
Convenient
course.
for them. Yeah.
Right? For like I said, oh, nobody speaks English here. But Ellen or Oprah comes to town, and look at that! All of a sudden, even the radio stations are, on fait tirer des billets pour Oprah, on fait tirer des billets pour Ellen. All of a sudden, all you bitches speak English.
English.
All you bitches speak English. All of a goddamn sudden, right?
Just because, yeah, because it's beneficial to them.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Most of Quebec is bilingual. Most of Quebec, those French people, they do speak English or they understand it perfectly well. Because they be watching Oprah and Ellen and them stuff as much as that English people are. Oh, yes, they are. You know
That's
how many? I know so
that's
many French
hilarious.
people who can't name 10 French actors or comedians or whatever.
Because they watch English content.
Because they watch English content that's simply translated or whatever. They can't tell you as
That's pretty.
much
That's
or
funny to
do
think
as
about.
much.
That would be really weird to be like your native language to be one thing, but still not know like in terms of like you said like actors or comedians or whatever. That'd be a really strange like to be like that would be like I equate it to like being a native English speaker, but like if I only knew like Japanese music artists and stuff. Like if you were like, hey, this dude named Justin Bieber, because regardless if you listen to him or not, you probably know who the dude is.
Yeah.
Like, so and I'd be like, oh no, I don't know that, but I do know Hideto Matsumoto, who was in Japan X. I know that. You know what I mean? Like it's just like what what?
But I think that comes back to the same thing of being a native English content creator, a non-English, and whether it's language content, whatever it is, English songs are most likely to be known by people around the world,
Yeah,
right? But if you have a German song that's super popular, maybe simply nobody outside of Germany or the close borders of Germany is going to know it,
yeah.
or anybody who, for some reason, has learned that language or speaks that language.
Right. And then you have the one rare case like that, like the Gangnam Style thing that just went everywhere, but that's a very few and far between
Exactly.
example.
It's a one in a million type thing. That would be great, but or Macarena, for example, is another one,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, actually, and there
Like,
was a comment. Do you remember Du Hast by Rammstein?
do
Du Hast
Ra-
by
I'm
Rammstein.
not a big Rammstein fan. I know exactly who they are,
Yeah.
but I can't say I'm too familiar with the
So,
music. It usually gives me a headache after a while.
gotcha, yeah. But I mean, that's just, like I said, though, even few, it's still so few and far between versus like English content being out everywhere.
Exactly, like a Russian rapper I really like, Timati. Like when I discovered him, one of the songs. First of all, there's a lot of English lyrics within their music,
Hmm.
like the most random things. Like one song was just like keys to the floor. I'm like, did he say keys to the floor? I thought I was hearing things, right? I'm just like, No, he said keys to the floor. After a while, I was like, yes, he did say keys to the
Keys to the
floor,
floor.
but it was so random that you're not expecting it. But
Right.
anyway, he actually has songs with Eve, Timbaland, Snoop
Whoa.
Dogg, all in English. But here's the thing, I was like, so unless you're like a true hardcore fan of these people where you really know all their work,
Right.
you're not going to know who it is. Even though he sings in English perfectly well, he speaks English perfectly well. His major career is in Russian, but I discovered him through Russian, and then I discovered that I know artists that he works with
Versus.
artists that I'm more than familiar with in
Yeah,
English.
that's actually a good. That's actually a good point. Like he's probably even been in your spectrum at some point before you knew that he was in your spectrum. Like, yeah, that's a very and then, but just because of the connection with Russian, you're like, and you're like, oh, this dude did this with this person. That's an interesting thing. I wonder how many times that's happened. Like, I'm sure there's probably been, whatever language I've learned, been studying. Like, there's probably people who have been in songs or whatever I just didn't realize had these well, a great example in movies. The main villain in Django Unchained, Christoph Waltz, is German. He's done a ton of German movies. Like he's a
Huh.
German dude. So like, I mean, just that's an example. I didn't really know who he was until Django, and then I went and looked at his IMDb, and he's just in all these German films. He's just a German actor. So that's a I never thought about that. How like something can cross your path and you don't even realize it feeds into something else that you enjoy.
I think there's probably a lot more than we realize because, again, unlike English people, the tendency is not high to have a second language. Unlike everybody else, the tendency is quite high to speak English,
Right.
right? Especially if you want to be in something like the music industry. You're not going to take your career very far if you don't speak some amount of
Right.
English. You're not going to get very far. And like an Arabic singer I'm familiar with, Cheb Mami,
Mm-hmm.
that's only because he did a song with Sting, Desert Rose. I understand not half the song because I do not speak Arabic, not even a little bit,
Right.
but it sounds gorgeous. And from that, I said, okay, let me try something else. And I actually know a few other songs or whatnot that I listen to. Again, I understand nothing,
Mm.
but it's music. You don't need to understand.
No, it's
It
absolutely.
sounds good, it feels good, and I'm like happy. And yeah,
Yep.
so I think that could happen a lot. I think that probably happens a lot more, especially in music. That's why I think musicians are the luckiest freaking people alive. If you can speak different language as a musician, literally you are legend. You
Yeah.
can be legend in so many ways. I've always wanted to be an actress when I was young. I kind of like gave up on that dream, really, not, and but now I'm just like I kind of sometimes have um a new lease on life for it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, hey, there's not just Hollywood in the world. I'm like, if I speak Spanish good enough, I'm like, hey, just like how you have characters like Sofia Vergara in Modern Family,
Right.
the accent is the whole thing, and the funny mistakes she made, like the baby cheeses and stuff like that. I'm like, well, shouldn't that work also in the opposite end?
Yeah.
Like
Oh
the
yeah.
other way around? So
Yep.
it's like maybe I have a career in some horrible Spanish soap opera. I don't give a shit.
Hey,
But that would be fun,
if it pays the bills.
right? And that would be fun to me. It's what I want to do. So
Yeah.
that's why I see language more as a communication tool for anything I want to do rather than just, like I say, I don't have so much a love of language as I do a love of communication.
Communication. You have a love of people and culture and learning about people and like
Exactly.
that kind of
Language
thing.
fits me to do that with a wider
Yeah.
variety of people, right? So
Right.
that's why it's everything's different for everyone, but that's why I say I personally have more of a love of communication than a love of language.
That makes. I can understand that.
Because I hate studying as much as the next person. Oh, good God, I want to shoot myself sometimes. I'm like, ah, I just want to speak it already. Just like
Yeah.
everybody else, I just want to wake up and be like, poof,
It's there.
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Unless you do it in 7 days. I mean, that's
Yes, you can do it in 7 days, Jonathan. Let me
yeah.
tell you how. Like literally no sleep. Everything you hear, read, write, do must be in that language. You must be speaking. Uh, no, like literally no
Mm,
sleep, and that's your only focus all the time,
yeah.
which we all know is not possible.
Yep. Yeah,
It's not possible.
not at all. Not at all.
All right.
Well, I am going to. Oh, we're going to wrap this up. I had a great time talking. I don't talk to everybody for 3 hours, so
Hold on. Wait.
yeah.
Let me get my white girl on.
So,
I'm a
but
dork.
I appreciate you coming on. Do you have anything in closing? I think hold on. He speaks German. Oh yeah, that's somebody's talking about Christoph Waltz. They said he got the part on Inglorious Bastards because he speaks German, French, and English pretty well. Tarantino said that it was really hard to find an actor with those skills because having to speak those. So yeah, yeah. Do you have anything in closing? I have your stuff linked below, but if you want to tell people where to stumble across your
First of all,
expertise.
thank you so much for having me. I really had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it
I
was
did not
awesome.
expect 3 hours, but it was a really easy, flowy conversation. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I'm the struggling linguist at Lang Struggles on all social media platforms. Feel free to DM, message, tweet, Insta, whatever.
Yeah.
Feel free to contact if you want to. Please help support the Language Lounge project that I'm doing, which you can find on Instagram, the Language Lounge, because we want to make it. I want to see a multilingual world. And the only way to do that is to create services for you guys that's useful, that you can go to, you can point to in your city. Right now, I just really need a backing of support, and the faster I can grow a support for this, the faster we can get this done. And I'm willing to go anywhere where I raise the money to get it done first. So if that's California, that's Vancouver, that's Ottawa, that's Berlin, I don't care. It will work.
Yeah,
All right, I'm done.
100%. No, you're good. So, thank you all for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully you guys got some enlightenment out of this. And yeah, you guys have a good night, a good evening, a good wherever you're at, whatever it is. Do it and make sure it's
Bonsoir
good.
à tous. Buenas noches. Guten
You know.
Nacht.
And I will see you all in the next live stream. I will see you. Nope, maybe a video. I think I'm doing a regular video tomorrow, and then another live stream Thursday. So maybe a regular video the next time I see you. But I will see you guys soon. Bye.